This is Muthui, Dennis Assetto. The High Court has issued temporary conservatory orders blocking the taxman from adjusting excess duty rates for petroleum products this Friday, which would have raised fuel prices again. The injunction issued by High Court Judge Justice James Macau is part of prayers sought by petitioners Isaiah Odando and Wilson Yatta, who moved to the court last week challenging the recent fuel price hike. Among the orders sought was the quashing of the decision by KRA Commissioner General to adjust excess duty rates for petroleum products, subject to the approval of the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary. Besides fuel products, other excisable goods which would attract higher prices from the inflation adjustment at 4.97%, include imported motor vehicles, bottled water, beer, wines and spirits, food supplements and cigarettes. Health CS Muthui Kagwe has warned private hospitals against detaining patients and bodies. Kagwe says the hospitals and patients need to reach an agreement on the settlement of bills rather than holding them forcefully. Kagwe, while speaking at Kisumu Sub-County Hospital in Murang'a, also asked members of the county to go get vaccinated against COVID-19. He said that only 3.2% of Kenyans had been fully vaccinated against the virus, further hoping that as we mark the 58th Mashujaa Day celebrations, 5.8 million more Kenyans would have been vaccinated.
98% of the people who are currently hospitalized ni watu ambao hawajachanjwa. Kwa hivyo ni kusema ya kwamba hii chanjo inafanya kazi. Na kama mmejuavyo, tunaelekea Mashujaa Day, tunaelekea Mashujaa Day, and we have a strategy and we have an aim. We want to have 5.8 million Mashujaas vaccinated. At least, ikiwa juu ni nzuri. Wewe ukiwa umechanjwa, wewe ni shujaa. Yule ambaye hajachanjwa, sio opposite ya yule sio shujaa ni nini?
Meanwhile, Kenya has recorded 54 new COVID-19 cases from a sample size of 2,501 tested in the last 24 hours, marking a positivity rate of 2.2%. This now brings the total confirmed positive cases to 248,515. From the cases, 52 are Kenyans while 2 are foreigners, 30 females while 24 are males. Now, ODM leader Raila Odinga today is expected to meet a group of influential people from Mount Kenya region through the Mount Kenya Foundation. The group is made up of highly financial investors and influential people in government. The Mount Kenya Foundation is led by Equity Bank Chairman Peter Munga, Mastermind Kenya entrepreneur Wilfred Murungi, former Chief Revenue Authority Commissioner Michael Waweru, and former Airports Authority Chairman George Mukoho, among others. Former Dagoretti MP Dennis Waweru is also a member representing politicians. According to an invitation sent by Vice Chairman Titus Ibui, the main objective is to give Raila Odinga the opportunity to explain his plans to develop the area and focus on the main economic pillars of the region, including agriculture. Meanwhile, Raila Odinga took his campaigns in Mount Kenya region, where he met with Governors Lee Kinyanjui of Nakuru, James Nyoro of Kiambu, Nderitu Muriithi of Laikipia, and Francis Kimemia of Nyandarua, and addressed residents at Naromoru, Chaka, Karatina, Juja and Githurai. In his campaigns, Odinga vowed to continue pushing his call for peace and unity.
Nilisema Kibaki tosha. Nilisema Kibaki tosha. Nilienda nikaongea na Wajaluo, nikawaambia Wakikuyu ni Wakenya kama Wakenya wengine, mpaka tuungane pamoja na Wakikuyu. Wajaluo walipiga kura 98.5% kwa kumwai Kibaki. Wakati mimi nilileta Kibaki hapa, kila mahali tuliopita walikuwa na Raila Odinga ni mtongoria jamba.
Odinga has continued to criticize the bottom-up economic model by Deputy President William Ruto on grounds that the economy cannot be uplifted from the grassroots level before empowering the young people.
Nataka tushikane pamoja. Mko tayari? Tunataka harakati ya ukombozi wa tatu ya kukomboa Kenya, na hii ni ukombozi ya kiuchumi ya kupigana na umaskini. Manake wakati waliokuwa wanapigania uhuru walisema tunataka mzungu aondoke, sisi kama Waafrika tujitawale wenyewe, tupigane na maadui wetu makubwa matatu: ugonjwa, ujinga, umaskini. Sawa.
And R. Kelly has been convicted by a federal jury of racketeering in his sex trafficking trial, where prosecutors accused the R&B singer of exploiting his stardom over a quarter-century to lure women and underage girls into his orbit for sex. Known for the 1996 Grammy-winning smash I Believe I Can Fly, Kelly, now 54, pleaded not guilty to a racketeering charge and 8 counts of violating a federal law, making it illegal to transport people across state lines for prostitution. Prosecutors tried to portray Kelly as a predator who over a quarter century used his fame and charisma to lure women and underage girls into his sphere and then subject his victims to violent physical and sexual abuse, some of which he recorded. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in McQueen?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, this resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Martin, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Seriousness Martin, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Are we starting Tuesday off right? Well, I hope so. Traffic is already starting to build up around that Westlands area. Looking west of the city of Nairobi today, quite some coming into the city, but we're not at crazy levels just yet. On the Thika Superhighway, things are flowing quite smoothly. Getting in and out of the city is a breeze. Langata Road looks pretty good, as does Ngong Road. If you're out and early this morning, you're going to have a good time on the roads because traffic has not yet started. I guess it is the time to get where you're going in record speed. Of course, while being careful. We're not going to see much traffic for the next 20 minutes or so. So if you're not out, perhaps now would be the time to leave. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch with us this morning as things pick up in the motions, or text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation
Good morning.
Room, the only
9 minutes after 6 on the 28th day of September 2021. There's a lovely yellow golden glow as the sun is rising. It's beautiful. You don't see it from this side, but from the other side.
This is one of those moments where she just has to apply a little faith. Yes, and believe that what you're telling is actually true.
Yeah.
Even I can see it.
You're exposing your little faith.
No, I just want to see it, that's all.
Okay.
I'm a nature girl.
All right. You suffer serial morpho bouts. Don't worry, it's true.
I didn't deny it. Neither am I saying that you're
You can
lying.
actually come. No, here you won't see it, but on the other side. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Good morning. Are you well?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning to you. It's good to see you.
Same here, man. You all right?
I am.
Good to see you, man.
City, how are you, man?
Brother, I am fine. I'm actually very fine.
You are? You
Yes.
are, CT, actually very fine.
I am fine. Where?
I think it's an age thing. Eh? I'm looking forward to the day when I get to this age. Well, the word very must be included in the fine. I am actually very fine.
The thing
it
is...
means something. For you, when you say you're fine, you're not thinking about it deeply. When CT is saying he's fine.
You make him sound like a dinosaur, man.
No. Something close, but not yet.
There's a word that comes to mind as we are talking. That's the word antique. I'm being antiquated before my very eyes here.
Yes.
As I'm seeing and as I'm watching. But I'll tell you this, though. Being fine is something that as you grow older, you realize you do not take for granted.
You appreciate it.
And part of the reason why you don't take it for granted is death, which used to be something that happened to other people, now gets closer to you. Every other day, you will come across people who who are your contemporaries, who have passed away.
Yeah.
Yes. Because the age of our parents, most of them have already gone. There's one or two. But now it's your contemporary, which tells you that when somebody calls you Mzee, it's not a term of endearment. No. It's a factual reference. Yes.
This is true.
It's true. You are Mzee. Yeah.
Accept it.
Just accept it and bask in it and enjoy it. It's a good thing to enjoy.
Indeed it is. It is. It's good to see you, City.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Today, what international day is it today? Ndu?
Safe abortion.
International Safe Abortion Day.
Voila.
All right. Now, we must obviously assume that there is no international unsafe abortion day.
we can only hope.
Yeah. There's no international unsafe abortion day. We're only looking at this one, International Safe Abortion Day. Now, for many people who listen to this, is it advocated by the pro-choice people, or is it basically looking at safety in terms of safety of mother, safety of child, whatever reason?
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily the argument back and forth, but that in the event that abortions are being procured, they must then be within a safe environment and with safe resources and safe handling. Okay, so it's not even about the argument pro-life, pro-choice. It's just that, okay, these things are happening. As they happen, can we make sure that they're safe? Of course, the argument is going to come in whichever way you want to look at it. However,
so essentially, what is it? Sexual health?
It's a combination.
Sexual and reproductive health. Huh?
Sexual reproductive health.
Yes.
Safe medical facilities.
Yeah.
The realization that these things occur.
Essentially an honest discussion.
Absolutely.
It's one of those days when that bill by Senator Susan Keheka then also comes to mind.
That debate has not ended, has it?
No, it hasn't.
It's just being shot down left, right, and center by everybody who has a religious bone in them.
Sure, and unfortunately, what has happened with the conversation is that religious skew has come into play, and so the conversation is shut down without taking into consideration that people are procuring these abortions, Christian or not, Muslim or not, Hindu or not,
pagan or not.
Yep. They're happening.
They're having them.
So we'll have a conversation about this at 8 a.m. We'll be joined by a human rights lawyer who's also a program officer for sexual and reproductive health rights at Kelin. She'll be joining us at 8. And at 7, we'll have a conversation about leading people and business beyond the pandemic. What is it that businesses need to do to see that they, that word again, pivot? Okay, but let's start with COVID-19.
Indeed, let's do that. Let's look at Kenya, first of all. Yesterday we were asking about those numbers. Where do we hope to be by December? But Kenya will vaccinate by 5.8. Kenya will vaccinate 5.8 million people by the 20th of October. That is the target. And if we look at, it's interesting that this is being recorded or reported, because from what we see, these are numbers coming from the Ministry of Health, very close to that number, and possibly that before the 20th of October, this would have happened. Now, if you look at the numbers coming from the Ministry of Health as of yesterday, this is strange, because if this is being reported yesterday, the 27th, right? And according to the Ministry of Health, 6.5 million people have already been vaccinated. And this report is telling us that...
Who's this report quoting? The 5.8 number. Who said this?
Total case of
Muthui
announced by Muthui Kagwe in Muranga, where he laid the foundation stone for a new sub-county hospital. Right? He gave those numbers. However, Ministry of Health, in their report on a daily basis, is telling us that they have vaccinated so far 6,353,820 people.
Allah.
That's a whole million people, almost a million people, short of what Kagwe himself said yesterday.
Or was he saying that we expect to vaccinate 5.85 yes?
Maybe an extra 5.8
yes.
to vaccinate an extra 5.8 million people by
this
that
story
date.
has also conflicting numbers, because you see,
numbers
this
don't
story
make sense
says so far 3.3%, that is 3.6 million vaccines have been administered across the country.
No.
What is that saying?
As of yesterday, remember we're talking about the vaccines. What we have received, we haven't fully utilized.
Yes.
And the number of vaccines that we've received amount to that particular figure. I mean,
to 6.
Okay, let me just...
There's something here which isn't adding up.
On October 20th, this is a quote from him, we shall be celebrating our 58th Mashujaa Day. And what better way of celebrating the day other than ensuring we are closer to reopening the economy in full by having as many of us vaccinated? We are working towards our 58th Mashujaa Day with 5.8 million people fully vaccinated.
Okay.
Doesn't make sense. Because these numbers that come from...
6.3 Ndu is vaccines received. The latest update by Ministry of Health. Vaccines received is 6.3 million vaccines received. Total vaccination is 3.6 million.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
that's the number.
So this then makes sense.
Yeah.
You're right, absolutely. Pardon me for that. So that makes sense then. And we're still looking then at 3.3% of population having been vaccinated. So these numbers are actually then correct.
Okay.
They are.
Let's take a break. 17 after 6, Kenya's biggest conversation, live streaming on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Are you online? Say hello. I've seen there's somebody in Gaborone. Hey. This is good. This is very good.
That is...
Capital of Botswana.
The G is pronounced with an H.
Okay. Yes. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
In the quest of saving an ailing son, Sonia does the unthinkable. Will the guilt of her misdeeds haunt her, or will she come clean? Catch Mother's Guilt at 6 p.m. every Monday to Friday.
Indeed, that sunset coming through at 14, highs of 26 and lows of 13 today. Clear conditions in Nakuru at 14, highs of 25 and lows of 14. It's going to be a high of 24 in Nyeri. Currently clear at 12. That'll be the low for today as well. And in Eldoret, clear conditions at 12. That'll be the low, highs of 24. Looking into Mombasa this morning. Light rain in some parts, however, cloudy conditions into a sunny morning at 23, highs of 30 and lows of 23. It's mostly clear in Malindi at 24, highs of 30, coming back down to lows of 24. In Kisumu, mostly cloudy conditions at 20, highs of 30, lows of 20 as well. And in Kakamega, 15 degrees. A chilly morning in Kakamega, highs of 28 and lows of 14. Out into Kampala, partly cloudy conditions at 21, lows of 19 and highs of 25. And in Dar es Salaam, 22 degrees. Clear conditions, highs of 30, back down to lows of 22 today. Joburg is clear at 18. We'll see lows of 16 and highs of 28. While in Lagos, it's raining at 25, highs of 31. Kinshasa is partly cloudy this morning at 25. We'll see lows of 24 and highs of 32. Let's look out into the eastern part of the globe. Partly sunny conditions in Beijing at 22. Highs of 25 and lows of 18. And Paris is clear at 10, highs of 19, back down to lows of 10. And Clear conditions in London at 12, highs of 17 and lows of 10. New York, still asleep Monday night at 22, actually the city that never sleeps. Highs of 27 and lows of 19.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. SpiceFM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
6.
And indeed, quite a number of people online this morning across the country and across the world. Joy Muthui tuned in from Nakuru. Greetings from Kitengela. That's what Rachel says. Good morning. Tuned in from Songok. Huh? Wait. No.
It's called again.
Tuned in from Homa Bay. His name is Songok. Okay?
Songok Collins.
Collins Kipto. Yes. Anyway, Collins is tuned in from Homa Bay and says good morning.
Okay.
Sky Karish tuned in as well. Benapudo is in Nairobi. Stanley, and he says, Uze sio ugonjwa. So. Okay. Good morning, guys. That's Karen and Sandy. Good morning, CT Latif and Ndu from Kimilili. Hint, hint. Good morning, Arsenic. Good morning to you. Oledere is tuning from Mweiga. It's not a greeting as well. Is it a greeting? No, it's not?
No.
What's the greeting that sounds like that?
Wemwega.
That one. That's what I was looking for. Asumta Larson is tuned in from Denmark. And in Githunguri is where Koi Wagendo is tuned in from. Ed Gitonga says he's tuned in Cold County 019. City that is?
Which one?
Where Ed was yesterday. Unless he has moved, that should be Nyeri.
No, Ed, he had left Meru.
He was in Meru for a couple of days.
Then moved to Embu. So now he's in Nyeri.
Atujui sasa.
You know those counties in Afuatana?
So 18, 19, 20.
It's how it works.
Hope Tayali is tuned in from Lusaka in Zambia. Reagan Nyandinga is tuned in as well. And Habarone, Botswana is where Bella Somolakai is tuned in from. Emmanuel Boadu Dankwa is tuned in from Ghana. And Wilson tuned in from Mombasa this morning. Listening from Kisumu, hey, Muga, you made my day yesterday about the pipe fiasco. You guys are awake. Evelyn, rejoicing in the day that the Lord has made indeed. Anubweze Mecca is tuned in this morning as well from Nigeria. Vincent Togutu tuned in as well. We see all of you and thank you for joining us.
Welcome. 019 is Nyeri.
And Nyeri.
Nyeri.
Right.
Yes. That's where Ed is this morning.
Okay.
If you went to Kirinyaga, he'd go to 20. Muranga, 21. Kiambu, 22.
Okay. Who's 18?
And then Kiambu borders Nairobi. Nairobi is 47.
In case you were falling into a pattern.
Yeah, it is a pattern. It's now a multiplication pattern.
Multiplication and add some. Wow, right.
Yeah. So, City.
Yes.
Did you get the Kisi proverb?
No, I didn't. But I'm sure I'll get in the course of the day.
What do you mean? Mwashimua didn't give you?
No.
Politicians are politicians.
No. I'm sure he's cooking up a proper, should say, a well-beefed up proverb. So it'll come.
Okay.
I have no doubt it'll come.
Okay.
Yes. So, in lieu of that particular proverb, the anticipated proverb, let me present you with an African proverb. Simple, straightforward, easy to understand. No one is born great. Great people become great when others are sleeping.
No one is born great. Great people become great when others are sleeping.
Yes.
Okay. Sawa. Amka kumekucha.
It's a beautiful song, that one. Oh, it's a beautiful song, that one. That one.
Which song?
Which one? That one.
The one Eric has just those words. It's a song.
I don't know it.
Hata wewe karani amka kumekucha. Kwani hizi ndizo saa za kwenda kazi.
It's a song.
It's okay.
A beautiful song.
It was encouraging people to do exactly what the proverb is telling us to do today.
Wake up.
Get up. Get out.
And not get up, stand up.
Get up, get out. Go seek your
and
greatness.
fight for your rights. No,
Yes.
go and work.
Go and work.
It is your right to work.
Yes. Let's look at the newspaper headlines. Ndu,
Yes.
the doctor was buried yesterday, was he?
Indeed, he
or
was.
was it just the service?
Well, he's not been buried. He's to be buried today.
Okay.
So the service was what was taking place yesterday. Unfortunately, he will be buried alongside his 2 children. It's covered in the Standard today.
Okay.
Widow pays glowing tribute to doctor as mental health is blamed. Post-mortem tests did not give conclusive results on the cause of death of Gakara and his 2 children. Also present at the mass were Agnes Nyeri, Gakara's daughter from a previous marriage. The widow of James Gakara, the doctor suspected of killing his 2 children before he later died a week ago, praised him as a selfless and supportive man. Winnie Odhiambo, appearing in public for the first time since the tragic incident on September 18th, eulogized Dr. Gakara as the best partner, a good listener, and compassionate. In a tribute read to mourners at the Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Nakuru's Milimani estate by Dr. Joy Mugambi, Winnie said, "I got everything I would ask for. Now I know it's not possible for anyone to live 1,000 years. My heart bleeds and I am completely shattered." Gakara and his children, Dylan 5 and Haley 3, will be buried today at their Mbaruk home in Gilgil, Nakuru. He died after 4 days in the intensive care unit, while his children died on the 18th of September. Although post-mortem tests did not give conclusive results on the cause of the 3 deaths, police reports indicated that Gakara may have injected the children with a lethal concoction of medical drugs before turning the same on himself.
Very sad.
Very
She
sad.
talked about how they met. And she says she was a clinical officer intern. On her 4th day of maternity rotation in February 2014, they examined the patient and agreed that she needed an emergency cesarean section, the first surgery that she was going to experience. I was nervous and dropped several instruments at once. She explained how shaken she was and that Gakara, who she was assisting, would be harsh on her, but the experience turned into their love story and later a happy marriage. I was worried he would shout at me. He looked at me calmly and in a soft voice told me not to worry. I was there to learn. His words touched me. Next year, in November, they got married. She was in Nairobi on this fateful day because he had paid for her to further her studies. And he had promised that they were going to meet and have some lunch with friends. So when she heard that he's in ICU when the children are dead, she went to HDU herself.
What went wrong?
It's quite bizarre. Quite bizarre, this story. Because, blaming mental health, but
There wasn't something for sure occurred that...
It didn't occur on that day.
No, and had
but were
been
there
for some
signs?
time.
Sometimes they are there, but we
just
don't see them. Now remember, everything that I've heard about this doctor tells me that it would have been impossible to figure it out as people are thinking. Somebody who's friendly, easygoing, gregarious, always concerned about others, that is the last person whom anyone will even detect stress in.
yeah.
Because the way such people express their stress is not the way other people do. They express the difficulties they have by helping other people. That's what they do. He has an issue, he focuses on how he can solve other people's problems.
And this is what we heard from, many accounts who said, in the
He
last
was always
months,
ready.
He was ready to help. But in the last few months, he was always asking other people, are you all right? Are you all right? Are you all right? Is there any way in which you can help? And, if there were signs, just looking at other thoughts that people would give, it's very possible that his wife also didn't even see those signs.
Yeah.
Nobody
did.
know.
She wouldn't know. Because this nature that he would have of looking outward then deflects from anything that was happening inward.
You see, what happens is a person like that, remember, there is now the view that people have, the perspective, the understanding they have of this person. He is the go-to person. Now, go-to people, it becomes then the norm. people don't reverse roles and consider that this particular person may actually be in need of help. It simply doesn't click.
Wow, this one is a sad one. It's a sad one. There have been other reports now, and confirmed all over saying maybe this guy was not a doctor, he was a clinical officer. But I see here the Central Rift Obstetricians Association chairperson Felix Atisa acknowledging that this guy was an OBGYN and he was in their group. He was a selfless person who was always a call away at any time, day or night. And you can see also, according to his wife, they first met in theatre, where he was in charge of the operation.
Those negative views, where have they suddenly sprung from?
No, you never know.
They're going to come up.
Just keep hearing. Maybe somebody just heard that the wife was a clinical officer and assumed that we're talking about the guy being a clinical officer.
They share the same profession, and then also look at the circumstances within which this has happened. 2 children dead, him dead. It's not explained. It's pure fodder for people to speculate.
Yeah, but there's something that again was mentioned, but then has gone quiet. He had a family,
a previous family,
Yes.
Yeah.
Who, according to the stories we have read, no longer live in the country.
But the daughter was there
yesterday.
The daughter was there yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's take a break. It's 6:30.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
The opportunities are here. Project X, the biggest youth empowerment project in Africa for young creatives, is here. Are you a model, a fashion designer, or a performing artist? Then this is the opportunity you have been waiting for. Register now for the opportunity of a lifetime by following at Opportunities Are Here on Instagram and the Opportunities Are Here on Facebook for more information and the registration link. Online selections begin on the 12th of October and registration closes on the 22nd of October. The Opportunities Are Here is a project by the Ethical Fashion Initiative in partnership with the European Union. Project X is co-produced by KTN Home and Vibes Radio.
We give you the latest, the funniest, and the most entertaining updates and news from Kenya and the world while you kick back and relax. Join in
So
our
again, just like that, traffic is built up in half an hour. We see that it's coming out of Westlands, hot and heavy, into the CBD this morning, where there was no traffic on the Thika Superhighway. Guess what? There is now, and it's building up, especially heading towards the Pangani Underpass. The drive-in through to Survey, and that drift actually is not so bad right now. Traffic is still flowing very, very smoothly. The bypasses will give you no indication that there's traffic in any other part of the city because they are free and open and moving very, very well. Langata Road is also building up just around the Wilson Airport. As you then get to the roundabout at the T-Mall, it's going to slow down considerably. But your go-to road is Bagadi Way. Use that to get into the city. We're getting to the roundabout at City Mortuary. Coming off from Gong Road looks pretty good. The roundabout's also giving up some good vibes. The ICD route coming off Mombasa Road, use that as an option to get away from the madness that is definitely going to be on Mombasa Road inbound this morning. Apart from that, nothing too crazy. Jogo Road building up as well, especially around the train station. But then on to Landis Road and into the city via Kamkunji. Looks pretty good as well. Could be that Tuesday when traffic is not too bad. We can just hope and wait and see. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Kenya's biggest conversation. I've got 2 stories on the back page of The Nation today, right? Both of them touching on the National Treasury. 1, the High Court suspended the taxman's decision to increase excise duty on fuel pending determination of a case filed by 2 Kenyans. In the order that will hit the National Treasury's plan to collect more revenue as it battles soaring debts, the court yesterday stopped KRA from raising the duty on petroleum products by 4.97%, in line with average annual inflation. This was to kick in from this weekend. However, Kenyans are set to feel the heat of new taxes imposed on other products from October 1st. These products that have been affected include beer, cigarettes, bottled water, juice, energy, and alcoholic drinks. Justice James Makau said the two Kenyans challenging the new duty on fuel, that's Isaiah Odando and Wilson Yatta, had demonstrated that they have a strong case against KRA with a likelihood of success. That is one, okay? Fuel is not going up. But syntax is kicking in. Second story, the Treasury gets 5.5 billion shillings boost from the central bank. You hear that headline? Sounds very nice. Treasury gets 5.5 billion shillings boost from the central bank. Listen to the intro. The Treasury has raided the central bank's cash reserves for a fresh 5 billion shillings injection to boost its drying coffers, even as it attempts to raise additional revenue from various sources continue to hit snags. The Exchequer was targeting to collect at least 21 billion from the minimum tax this financial year. The plans ran into headwinds last week. High Court in Machakos barred KRA from implementing the new tax. Still, the Treasury, which plans to borrow 661 billion shillings from local creditors in the current financial year, has also found the going tough, collecting less than half of its target. Less than 330 billion shillings collected. Last week, it only raised 10 billion from the weekly Treasury bills auction against an advertised amount of 24 billion. Just a week after the previous auction also yielded 13 billion shillings from a target of 24 billion. Even people are not feeling like they want to lend the government in the markets.
We also know.
So the Treasury just went to the cash reserves and told the central bank, give us some money. The CBK said its board gave the nod to the cash transfer following a positive assessment of its financial position, adding that it is well resourced to deliver on its mandate despite a challenging business environment caused by COVID. As the lender of last resort, the CBK is required to have adequate cash reserves to extend to commercial banks at any given time for temporary liquidity through its discount window. There you go. Okay. Everybody is just rushing to court and telling the government not to collect money. And yet the government has already committed that it's going to pay debt. So
where do you want us to get the money? You're rushing to court. What do you want us to do?
You know, people ask,
This country should be closed.
Actually,
everybody told to go home.
Actually, no. No. Let's be specific and actually point to the people who should actually go home, because not very useful. Yes, that's what we need to determine. Who don't we need?
Who do we throw overboard?
Yes, who don't we need? Because there are people we clearly
can do without.
Happily.
You know how they say when a boat is about to sink in the ocean, then there's some people you can toss over,
Just
right?
start tossing over
so
people, one over.
We can progress.
One to the next. What are you looking at, City?
Well, before I even read what I'm looking at, I was still thinking about the story of the doctor Nakuru.
Yeah.
And the thing that, see the questions we're raising about why didn't people notice, there's something that it points to, and it isn't a pleasant thing. It is the way we relate to each other in this day and age. Remember how every morning we ask each other how we are?
Yeah.
When people tell you so and so is fine, the truth is people don't really want to know how you really are.
Even when they're asking you.
No. They want to tell them you're fine.
They just want that simple answer.
Answer, yes. And if you say you're not
fine,
please qualify it by saying it is okay, but I'm handling it. They don't want to feel that there's perhaps an indication that there may be a problem that you want them to help you with. People don't want that. And if they do, you're somebody whom they know they can always come to again for help. But the idea of selflessness, this one of someone is concerned and they're concerned simply because they wish to help, or genuine relationships where you find somebody actually takes the time to come and find out, how are you doing? Don't tell me that you're fine. How exactly is your life?
How many people actually ask that question with that intention?
Very few, I would say.
That is the point. Even people who you think are your friends or who claim
because
to be
everybody
your
is battling something. So I'm just asking you, are you still alive? Are you okay? So let's just keep fighting.
You're breathing today? All right.
Let's keep fighting. Okay?
Actually,
I am dealing with my own issues. Are you handling your issues? Yes, okay.
who is going to, if you ask a man that question, which man is going to tell you they're not handling the issues?
That's the thing.
And you see, handling issues doesn't mean that sometimes the issues are almost overwhelming you. Stiff upper lip. Okay? Unakufa kiofisa, as we say.
Yes.
You simply, anyway.
Yes.
A subject for further discussion. There's an article that caught my attention in the East African. This was something that relates to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who, it was not this week, last week, this is something that he said. He said, and I'm quoting, "We have never been so talking about the planet that we live in, so technologically advanced. We have never been so connected. We have never had the wealth, the resources, or know-how that we now have. There's nothing in our path to stop us but ourselves. Let us be the UN that people want us to be." The context in which he was saying this was this. He said that one of the great areas of inequality from the UN perspective was the issues relating to COVID. And he was saying that given what we actually see and what we have, he said there's this alarm of what is actually going wrong. But he said it looks like this whole thing at some level is being handled in the wrong direction. Because, and that's why he was saying, we have the means. We have the ability. This is something we can actually resolve once and for all. But somehow we have decided that we are going to play the normal games. Now, this is me saying. We are going to play the normal games that we normally play. Okay? He pointed out that right now the world is in a crisis. And he pointed out to Yemen. He pointed out to Afghanistan. He pointed to Ethiopia. He pointed to many other countries and said, if you look at what's happening around us with all these things, there's hardly anything that you're looking at that we cannot find a solution to.
Yeah. Very simple, basic solutions.
Yes. But yet, now you may ask, of all the stories that one could think of, why am I thinking of this? You see, the president of this country acknowledged that we lose 2 billion shillings every single day. Not year, day. He acknowledged. Other quarters, people have said the same thing. How much effort have we put into stopping this hemorrhaging? Do we know? Have special units? No, and I'm talking about those committees that they set up to investigate. Do we have units within our security apparatus that we've been told these are special units that are going to deal with these things? Yes, there are a few that have been mentioned. But how do we think we are ever going to get to a point where we can say we have begun solving our own internal problems when we seem to delight ourselves in acknowledging that we are losing this huge amount of money on a daily basis, and it's become normal conversation? How can 2 billion shillings daily lost become a normal conversation? How? In a country where there are 12 counties that are not facing, they are in the throes of hunger.
People are not eating. People are not finding a meal a day. There are guys who are going for
several days without
a meal.
And some are dying. So,
yeah.
And
you're saying 2 billion.
And then you know what happens? The ministry, the government sets 2 billion shillings for these people. A day's loss is what you're giving people in 12 countries.
Who can't eat?
A day's loss. And someone is happily telling you, we've set aside 2 billion shillings to deal with this. 12 counties. Now, surely, we've lost it completely.
Those who are superintending the coffers are the ones who are in charge of the money getting lost. They're the beneficiaries of the losses.
Yep.
If this money was going to other people, I'm telling you, if this money was being stolen by some small Njoroge somewhere,
they would be
they'd have been decapitated. Not just that killed, decapitated. But now, we can only talk about it. because those who are talking about it know exactly where it's going.
Who know where it's going.
They know where it's going. Before we take a break, I have a story. Oh, you have one?
No, go ahead. I'll do mine later.
Okay. So, we are dealing with Al-Shabaab, especially along Lamu and Boni forests. So this group of Al-Shabaab chaps had tried to cross over through the Sarira Raskamboni Road in Lamu. Another group of Al-Shabaab chaps had gone through the same road and planted an IED, an improvised explosive device. They were targeting Kenyan soldiers who are operating there, trying to push them back into Somalia. What happened is that it's a group of Al-Shabaab chaps who are on a pickup who used the road, stepped on the IED, it did its kaboom, and 15 Al-Shabaabs.
They offed their own people.
Yep.
The IED doesn't actually know people.
No. The people who planted the IED were Al-Shabaab.
Yep.
Hoping to get someone else. But they got their own folks.
What I'm saying is, the IED also don't know it's Al-Shabaab who planted it. Its job is when you step on it, it explodes.
It explodes.
Yes.
The people who planted it should have also realized that it was very possible that their own people could have been traversing that area.
They should have sent an SMS.
And said, hey guys, we've done this. Please avoid the area.
But consider
this road is hot. Hot.
But it's tragic, isn't it? Huh?
Is it?
With all the many wars that have been fought in the world, one of the biggest problems that they've always had is clearing landmines that had been set up. They were meant as a trap when the war was there. Then suddenly there's no war, so it's a danger to the very people.
Yeah. There's a whole UN agency for that.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
For demining. So this one, I just found this a very nice story. Yes.
Kind of funny, actually.
15 Al-Shabaab.
Meant for somebody else. There must be a proverb about that somewhere.
Yes.
And it was planted by fellow Al-Shabaab. Nini, hawana simu, hawana kasain, plant something there.
Eco. But then, you don't go around sending messages. It might be intercepted.
Leave something. Leave a dead tortoise shell on the road. Let these guys see.
So they know.
Yeah, so they know.
A dead tortoise shell, there's danger.
Yeah, there's danger.
This is a message from our own peeps.
You are assuming that when the word Al-Shabaab is used, you are talking of a cohesive group of people, yes, who have a central command, which they may do, but who function in tandem with the plans that they have. It's like when people talk about the Taliban, they think it's one group. It is not.
It is various groups.
Yes, it's various groups in that one mix.
Yes. More of this should happen. It's 13 minutes to 7. Good morning.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Losing a loved one is never easy. The lingering memories, the what-ifs, but in all the gloom, we find ways of celebrating them. And here at the Standard Tributes, we aim to give your loved ones that befitting send-off. Visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/tributes today and post your loved one's tribute. In addition, get access to funeral services from our trusted vendors. The Standard Tributes, keeping memories alive.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
All right,
Nairobi.
12 minutes to 7. Hey, Yegon is back in full force.
Telling
Yeah. Where are you today, Yegon? He's commenting, he's watching us live. Hussein Ochola, Yegon.
Yeah. Kenya.
Okay, yes. Proper Kenyan. Aya, what are you looking at?
Okay, so I have a story for you guys. There's RC and there's KC. Okay.
Right.
So far,
KC and
KC
Jojo.
and no.
Okay.
RC, I don't know.
KC.
But KC, I'm the Sunshine Band.
I'm going to go and sit down, Joe. Now, look at him, how his eyes lit up. Their real names have been withheld for legal reasons, all right?
Yep.
So, they're happily married to each other. All right? Until the latter, being I'm sorry, it's RC and KR. So sorry, you and your Sunshine Band. Okay?
RC and Kenya Railways.
God. So, the latter started suspecting his wife of infidelity. With the marriage hanging on a thread, KR expelled his wife from their bedroom and she moved to their son's room. Now, KR hired a private investigator to tail RC and collect evidence that she was violating vows that the couple undertook to uphold until death. He also secretly installed cameras in the room that RC was now occupying before hiding listening devices in her car and a section of the family's home garden where she would make and take calls away from KR. Somehow, KR was also to obtain private messages and call logs from his estranged wife's mobile phone, which corroborated other indicators that RC not only had a lover, but had been even procured an abortion to keep the forbidden love a secret. In 2019, KR filed 2 cases against his wife, one seeking divorce and another one for full custody of their 2 children. In the 2 cases, he filed nearly 100 pieces of evidence in the form of documents, photographs, videos, audio recordings, and screenshots of her private communications with her lover. The divorce case was filed at the Chief Magistrate's Court in Milimani, while the custody battle is before the Children's Court in the same Nairobi station. December 21st, 2020, RC filed a case at the Constitutional and Human Rights Division of the High Court seeking a declaration that her husband violated her privacy laws in collecting 86 pieces of evidence that he annexed to the court to the divorce and custody suits. KR admitted to hiring a private investigator but insisted that the sleuth gathered incriminating evidence against his wife legally. He also argued that RC had willingly surrendered to him her phone and social media passwords on account of their marriage. While rummaging through a drawer in their son's bedroom now occupied by RC, he found a medical report proving that his wife had procured an abortion to hide the result of an extramarital affair. Down the road. In April, Justice Anthony Charo Mrima found that KR had violated privacy laws in obtaining 32 pieces of evidence against his wife and barred him from using the exhibits in the divorce and custody battles. This whole story is telling us how now snooping on your partner's phone can land you in trouble. The compensation that his wife got from this was 200,000 shillings. This was the amount that she was awarded for violation of privacy. 2 million this is in another case now. An amount awarded to another individual was 2 million shillings for the use of a photo that was gotten from his phone without permission. What? The laws are changing. Some people have become overnight millionaires as courts maintain that privacy is still king.
Privacy is privacy.
It is.
Well, but he had gone to great lengths.
He had.
First of all, plant a camera in the room. Plant listening devices in the car, in the garden. Hire a private investigator. Collect call records.
Kick her out of the room and then go to rummage in the
SMSs
room.
and all. My good Lord.
He said, according to the court, the judge said, there must be order in doing things. Illegal ways of gathering information must be discouraged, since the Constitution and the law provide for ways which any information may be obtained. He said allowing some of the exhibits like police occurrence book reports and recordings that were made in common areas like the matrimonial home and living room were fine. But this business of going into people's phones and getting what you can, hiring a private investigator, going and looking at people's medical records, the court says what? The court says no. So if you're thinking
so the listening devices in the garden,
in the public
camera,
common area, fine. In the bedroom where she sleeps, on her phone, which is her own, in a drawer where she's put her medical reports, absolutely not. And now you were using that as evidence to get a divorce. Now we are saying you must pay her because you violated her privacy rights.
But it points to something else also. When somebody goes to such lengths, it points to something that is not quite right in your way of looking at things.
Yeah.
Do you need evidence in order to divorce someone? Must they do wrong? No. Irreconcilable differences simply means we can't get along. And if the two of you agree to part ways, you can part ways. Remember?
Maybe that's where the problem is.
Yes.
Not agreeing to part ways.
He didn't want to part ways. She had taken a lover, and then she was pregnant by said lover.
So he says.
And still within the matrimonial home.
So he says.
She didn't deny it, but she said it was her business.
You see? So he says. You see, in an issue that involves a marriage, my friends, those are murky waters.
Very.
Yeah.
Where the truth lies, I'm not even going to venture. Anything could have happened. How much more don't we know about that situation?
About this marriage?
Yes.
I think it's just speaking about the two of them.
Yes.
It's about the two of them. It has become, the situation has broken down so much.
Yes.
They can't speak to one another.
Yeah, that you have to go to such great lengths to basically come and prove to the court that, you know what, this is the reason. Even if she contests, I've got the reasons. And then now going further ahead, remember there's also some children here.
Yeah.
The issue of custody and the issue of rights. So to prove that you're not the wrong person in this relationship.
Therein
Remember,
lies
he
issue.
filed 2 cases, right? He filed 2 suits. One was a divorce, breaking the marriage, and the other one was at the children's court to get custody of his
Custody
children.
of the children.
So you can imagine in most cases, custody will go to the mother. Unless it is found that she's unfit to be a mother. Most times, the custody does go to her. Now, in this case, as far as he was concerned, he needed to get all his ducks in a row to show that this woman was behaving outside of her responsibility. And that's why he went to this length, according to him. Court says, that's okay. However, where you went was private. And
You
you
know,
don't allow that anymore.
if you ask my opinion, no one is actually asking my opinion on this one, but I'm going to give it anyway.
Sure.
Okay? Matters of relationships should actually not be settled in court.
How should they be settled, City?
Thank you. The court services, in my opinion, ought to have psychosocial support. You know why? Have you ever noticed how long divorce cases take? The steps you go through before you...
Yes.
It's a long... You know why?
Yes.
Because you have to be given time to think this thing through. There's the understanding that something has upset you, something isn't working. But look, you made a conscious decision to get into this situation. Take time to think it through. We are talking about a relationship that clearly had broken down. What broke it down? Is it being addressed by these things? None of these things are addressing that.
Does it need to be addressed?
I think it needs to be addressed, because if it isn't addressed...
If both parties, the same way they agreed that they are in love, they have agreed that they have fallen out of love. See, they just
Let me tell you, if you've fallen out of love, the likelihood of you seeking new love will arise. What makes you think the situation will not repeat itself? That is what I'm saying. There's a need, there's always a great need to understand what it is that has actually brought about this problem. It didn't break down in a day.
To figure it out. I think that we're trying to look as though the courts and the law is going to solve the problem. No. But what is actually happening, it's not, they're not trying to solve a problem. What is happening here is that you were legally bound. In order for you to disband it, you must go back to the law. That's it. All this relation, love, inside.
The law is just...
the law is trying to...
It's calling you single.
Yes. Because where previously they had called you married by law. Now, in order for you to be single, the law has to come in. That's it. They're not dealing with psychosocial, love, anything.
All those are things now you can go,
You can go and
that's why the church comes in.
The pastor, counselor, those things. Auntie.
The elders.
In the village kind of thing. But the law...
Auntie in the village.
At all.
Yeah.
That's where you will go now.
Okay.
The law is just to remove what they had put in the first place. Okay. That's their business.
Okay. Okay.
Where? Okay, so as we go to the top of the hour, then there's a story of a mystery of 4 bodies that were retrieved in one day. The bodies of a man and a woman were found floating in Masinga Dam on Sunday evening and were moved to the General Cargo Funeral Home in Thika, according to Masinga Police Commander Ali Rashid. And then another body was retrieved near a riverbank on the Kiambu-Machakos boundary on the same day. We have transferred the bodies to the mortuary. It says the man seemed to have been tortured and his eyes had been plucked out, but the woman's body was intact. And then another body was found in Ruiru. According to Ruiru Commander Cecilia Kemboi, the body, which had started to decompose, had no physical injuries. The body was also moved to mortuary. So in Riru and then in Masinga, bodies are just being found in water bodies. And this is increasing in the country. What's happening? Keep it right here. Conversations continue. In the next hour, we ask ourselves, so what is it that businesses need to do to manage their staff and their people in these times of COVID-19? A very good morning to you. It is now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. The High Court has issued temporary conservatory orders blocking the taxman from adjusting excise duty rates for petroleum products this Friday, which would have raised fuel prices again. The injunction issued by High Court Judge Justice James Makau is part of prayers sought by petitioners Isaiah Odando and Wilson Yatta, who moved to the court last week challenging the recent fuel hike. Among the orders sought was quashing of the decision by KRA Commissioner General to adjust excise duty rates for petroleum products subject to the approval of the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary. Besides fuel products, other excise-able goods which will attract higher prices from the inflation adjustment at 4.97%, include imported motor vehicles, bottled water, beer, wines and spirits, food supplements and cigarettes. Health CS Muthui Kagwe has warned private hospitals against detaining patients and bodies. Kagwe says that hospitals and patients need to reach an agreement on the settlement of bills rather than holding them forcefully. Kagwe, while speaking at Kisumu Sub-County Hospital in Murang'a, also asked members of the county to go get vaccinated against COVID-19. He said that only 3.2% of Kenyans had been fully vaccinated against the virus, further hoping that as we mark the 58th Mashujaa Day celebrations, 5.8 million more Kenyans would have been vaccinated.
98% of the people who are currently hospitalized ni watu ambao hawajachanjwa. Kwa hivyo ni kusema ya kwamba hii chanjo inafanya kazi. Na kama mmejuavyo, tunaelekea Mashujaa Day, tunaelekea Mashujaa Day, and we have a strategy and we have an aim. We want to have 5.8 million Mashujaas vaccinated at least. Ikiwa juu ni mzuri. Wewe ukiwa umechanjwa, wewe ni shujaa. Yule ambaye hajachanjwa, sivyo opposite ya yule siye shujaa ni nini?
Days as Kenya recorded 54 new COVID-19 cases from a sample set of 2,501 tested in the last 24 hours, marking a positivity rate of 2.2%. This now brings the total confirmed positive cases to 248,515. From the cases, 52 are Kenyans, while 2 are foreigners, 30 females, while 24 are males. Now, ODM leader Raila Odinga today is expected to meet a group of influential people from Mount Kenya region through the Mount Kenya Foundation. The group is made up of highly financial investors and influential people in government. The Mount Kenya Foundation is led by Equity Bank Chairman Peter Munga, Mastermind Kenya entrepreneur Wilfred Murungi, former Chief Revenue Authority Commissioner Michael Waweru, and former Airports Authority Chairman George Muhoho, among others. Former Dagoretti South MP Dennis Waweru is also a member representing politicians. According to an invitation sent by Vice Chairman Titus Sibui, the main objective is to give Raila Odinga the opportunity to explain his plans to develop the area and focus on the main economic pillars of the region, including agriculture. This as Raila Odinga took his campaigns in Mount Kenya region, where he met with Governors Lee Kinyanjui of Nakuru, James Nyoro of Kiambu, Ndiritu Muriithi of Laikipia, and Francis Kimemia of Nyandarua, and addressed residents at Naromoru, Chaka, Karatina, Juja and Githurai. In his campaigns, Odinga vowed to continue pushing his call for peace and unity.
Nilisema Kibaki tosha. Sisema Kibaki tosha. Nilienda nikaongea na Wajaluo nikawaambia Wakikuyu ni Wakenya kama Wakenya wengine, mpaka tuungane pamoja na Wakikuyu. Wajaluo walipiga kura 98.5% kwa Mwai Kibaki. Wakati mimi nilileta Kibaki hapa, kila mahali tuliopita walikuwa na Raila Odinga ni mtongoria jamba.
Odinga continued to criticize the bottom-up economic model by Deputy President William Ruto on grounds that the economy cannot be uplifted from the grassroots level before empowering the young people.
Nataka tushikane pamoja. Mko tayari? Tunataka harakati ya ukombozi wa tatu ya kukomboa Kenya, na hii ni ukombozi ya kiuchumi ya kupigana na umaskini. Manake wakati walikuwa wanapigania uhuru walisema tunataka mzungu aondoke, sisi kama Waafrika tujitawale wenyewe, tupigane na maadui wetu makubwa matatu: ugonjwa, ujinga, umaskini. Sawa sawa.
To sports, and former Harambee Stars keeper Victor Wanyama has announced his retirement from international football, bringing the curtains down on a 14-year stint with the national football team Harambee Stars. In a statement on his Twitter handle, Wanyama, who last appeared for the team at the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations finals held in Egypt, said that it has been his honor to represent the country, adding that time has come to pass the mantle to the younger players. We only say thank you for service. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
It looks good on Mombasa Road this morning. Not too much traffic. Not crazy at all. Let's just cross our fingers and hope it remains this way. You know how they say, don't say something about something that's going good so it doesn't go bad. Right. Anyway, so on North Airport Road, going out towards Outer Ring, we have some traffic inbound going the long way to the city. That continues. Also spilling over onto Jogo Road this morning. So Outer Ring, that whole mess going towards Manyanja, that Donholm area, then trying to find your way into the city is slow. But it's moving this morning. Langata Road also building up. And that's a section that then joins with Aerodrome and then going towards Uhuru Highway. At the Bunyala Road roundabout there, it's also picking up quite some as you head out into the city on Uhuru Highway, getting towards Haile Selassie, out into the city, through to Westlands and back outbound. Traffic is back and forth. Langata Road, then heading towards the Timor roundabout. Use Bagathi Way. This road giving up good vibes this morning. Interesting to look at. We closed our eyes, now they're open, and Thika Road is doing its thing. Guys, traffic inbound, hot and heavy, all the way past Survey now, and Kiambu Road has joined the party because traffic in both directions today is absolutely crazy. So, it's going to be slow getting off Thika Superhighway, getting into the city, but you're going to have to sit through this one, going towards Ngara as well. Traffic is building up. So, it was good while it lasted, but there's traffic in the city, and we're just going to have to sit through it. We're in traffic hour right now. Let's see what it looks like in a short bit. SpiceFMKE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
8 minutes after 7. Good morning. How are you doing? Kenya's biggest conversation enters the second hour on this 28th day of September 2021. Happy Tuesday, wherever you are tuned in today. So, Ndu, City's PA, applicant, Makadero, is asking, you're so good at this traffic thing. Do you actually find yourself sometime talking to your children and telling them, talk to me on SpiceFMKE or text 40127?
Force of habit. One day, if it happens, I'll record and play for you guys.
You see the term that they use?
Children will be confused.
Yes, P. That's a nice one, Makadero.
For real.
City, today's proverb.
No one is born great. Great people become great when others are sleeping.
No one is born great.
Nope.
Great people become great when others are sleeping. Okay. There's always somebody who's awake. Even when you're awake.
When others are asleep.
Others are asleep.
Actually, you only need to consider that. The hours we come to work. You know, in the beginning, I asked myself, what are these people doing on the road at this hour? Then I realized, but what am I doing on the road at this hour?
This hour.
Yeah, even me, what am I doing here?
Why is everybody awake so early?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured,
Why are you?
Why am I awake this early? So they must have a good reason. Much as I have a good reason for being awake, well, so do they.
Now let's have a conversation about what's been happening in the country. Oh no, in the world. There's COVID-19 as a pandemic. Okay. One of the first things that COVID-19 forced us to do is to, first of all, stay indoors. Well, in Kenya, we didn't stay indoors for long. It was just like one day, and then we were like, where?
Can't do this, man.
But many organizations actually require their people to work from home. Others require their people to take a break from work, which is not even expecting a salary. Let's just call these the laid off. Then the organizations themselves, the businesses, obviously have gone through tough times. Now it's about recovery and seeing, are we building back better, like the global phrase is going, and what is it that we need to do to get there? When you've gotten people who are working from home and now you're requiring them to come back to work, or you're getting people to work from home and you still want them to continue working from home, and then sometimes reporting to work and sometimes not, how do you start leading such people? The guys who have had issues are HR professionals. You see, HR people, and I'm not saying this, with any malice to HR people. HR people like seeing their people. You come in, you clock in, right? And they can see you're at work. Now you are working from home. How do I know you're working?
Because the only way you can be working is if I can see you.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the mindset. That's what I'm saying. It's a mindset.
Now HR people are having to manage people, motivate. What is it that HR people do? So you've got to motivate your people. You've got to know, having conversations with people, knowing that the people are doing well. CT, are you okay? That's a conversation that HR personnel usually want to have. So you're having that conversation with somebody on the other side of the screen, and you're asking them, "Are you fine?"
But Eric,
I
mean, how different is it? The times when we used to go to HR offices when you wanted leave, but in this age that we are in, you talk to an HR person on the phone. They send you a form online. You fill it. Digital signature. Leave is granted. You never see the person. You never actually. So long before COVID hit our shows, HR people were already very, very well entrenched in the 21st century, and they're already dealing with this situation that COVID has now forced upon us in great measure.
Yeah, and then they'd come up with those templates where you fill out, how your assessment is going to be done.
Yes.
But they still wanted to have, that one-on-one conversation.
The one-on-one came in when now the yearly review comes in.
Yes.
When they now want to determine whether you've actually been working, what progress have you made according to this template, what courses have you attended, and all those things. And then, but of course, usually your head of department will have filled in their part, and they'll be there. And then you ask these uncomfortable questions about whether you've been working or not.
Yes.
I doubt if COVID has prevented that, because it's a one-on-one. That is a one-on-one. COVID doesn't prevent the one-on-one. COVID is against groups.
It's a personal touch as well.
Yes. At some point.
And also, when all of you are in the office,
yes,
you're bound to have friction. Here and there, so you have the friction, and then you go to your supervisor, and the supervisor in the HR template says, supervisor, and then we shall have a neutral person, HR. Look, Bana, HR, you have to find a way of making yourself relevant. I said, I'm not.
HR doesn't have to make themselves relevant, Eric. HR are relevant.
Of course they are.
Yeah?
They've got to remind you.
By the time the whole process and that department of enterprise evolved until they became human resource.
Yes.
And then they became human resource managers.
Yes.
That landscape changed.
And then it changed. Now it's talent.
It used to be personnel.
Personnel managers. Now it's human resource. And then moved to talent and others. Let's bring in HR professionals, and we have a conversation about leading people and businesses beyond the pandemic. Joining us via video link is Kanyenge Kagushia. He's a Chief Operations Officer at Rise and Learn Global, and Emily Kamunde Osoro, who is a director in the same organization, Rise and Learn Global. Good morning, lady and gentlemen.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
It's good to have you on the show. Asante sana for joining us. First, let's get to understand, who is Rise and Learn Global? And we can start with you, maybe the director, Emily.
Sure. So Rise and Learn is an HR consulting firm. We specialize in impacting lives in different ways. One of those is creating jobs. We also support organizations on the HR processes and strategic business operations. We outsource HR services to organizations that may not be fortunate to have in-house HR. We also provide talent development across organizations. We support HR professionals in this country to develop themselves professionally. And finally, we also provide coaching certification programs across the globe.
From what you've just said, Emily, that's a lot of work that you do. So would you then say that everything you've mentioned, these are the areas you specialize in?
Actually, HR is pretty broad. And to answer your question, yes, we do specialize in mainly those three areas. One, because we found that there is a gap, especially for business owners and small businesses. The first thing you want to do is keep your business running. You may not have the resources of having in-house HR and probably managing your labor. And so that's one of the areas where we come in to let the businesses do what they are good at. And then we bring in the professionalism and the compliance and really supporting them with best practices in HR. And of course, the coaching piece as well has been an area that we have ventured into through also our partners, Ericsson Coaching International. So we develop leaders in this country and beyond to become professional coaches and to be able to use that within the organizations to even become better leaders in whatever area that they specialize in.
You've used a term that I have come across very often, and I have to confess, I don't fully understand it. Professional coaches. You see, I am of that generation when somebody mentioned the word coach, you think sports. Yes, you think football, you think somebody who's running, you think netball, you think volleyball, coach. Boxing, coach. You think of PE, you think of... Now, when you say coach in the field of HR, please explain, what does it mean and what do these people actually do?
That's a great question. Coaches are in the business of bringing out the best in others, helping them discover their potential, helping them become more self-aware, gain confidence, and be able to really achieve their professional and personal goals. So it looks at the whole person. And it's actually a key leadership competency that develops different areas. And so for you to become a professional coach, you actually have to go through a specialized kind of training or certification. And so once you've done that, then you can actually call yourself a professional coach. It's very different from the sports kind of coaching, where you are actually training and showing your players what they need to do to succeed. So the difference is that we believe humans are innately gifted, they are extremely powerful, and they have all the resources that they could use to become what it is that they want to be. So we tap into that potential. We tap into the inner strength of individuals and really to build their own internal confidence and supporting them, implement their own goals.
So would you then say that parents then are professional coaches?
I think they are some of the best coaches. They haven't been trained, but if they went
they actually
through it,
are trained. The parents are trained. When a child grows up, that's training. And parents often parent in the way they were parented. So they're actually trained. Yes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. They do have those skills. Come to think of it, yeah.
So essentially, you're saying that I, as a parent, I'm a professional coach.
You're a professional coach.
You just need to come to class and to just close that up.
Kanyinge Kagushia is the Chief Operations Officer at Rise and Learn. Kanyinge,
yes, sir.
We have a friend on this show called Philip Kagushia. In fact, my colleagues were asking, is he Philip's brother or father? Or son?
Or cousin?
Probably cousin.
Maybe you never know.
You never know with these things. So, as your organization, you've been dealing with many of your clients during this time of COVID-19. What are some of the experiences that you've seen with organizations having to deal with their staff? Just like you heard us introducing the conversation, in this COVID-19 period, the difficulties that came with it, there is uncertainty, there is a lot of anxiety amongst your staff, even in the organization and among your managers. There is a change of the working culture. Now you're working from home and others are having to come to work. What did HR professionals go through in this difficult period?
It's a good question you ask, and so we keep talking about the new normal, and in many ways it's become cliche. People don't want to keep on hearing about the new normal, but the fact is, it's true, it's here, and it's going to be with us for a while. Now, I had the opening comments about HR wanting to see people and to know that you're working because they can see you. In a way, we've seen the future come to us. So the future came early. You know when we say Christmas come early? Future come early. So HRs have had to deal with things that they were thinking about for the future, and now they're dealing with discussions around job losses. So they're dealing with discussions around cutting down on costs, increased life stresses, and the big one, mental health. So there's an interesting thing. When you sit in the office 8 to 5, there's a way in which you're programmed to work and deliver work and go home. But we've seen two extremes emerge. There are those people, and especially HR, who think, look, when I can't see my people, they are not working. But there's the other extreme where people are overworking themselves. I mean, I wake up from bed, brush my teeth, dress up, and my desk is next to my bed. So I'll sit there from 6:30 or 7. You'll be shocked people are not taking toilet breaks, they're forgetting to eat their food, and then it gets to 5 o'clock and I'm thinking, okay, let me just shut down now, and before you know it, it's 7, 8, 9, 10. You do that over a week, over a month, over a year, then we start getting issues of mental health and breakdown and burnout.
In the office setting.
That's what HR has to deal with.
Right. So if we roll back before COVID, in the office setting where people were having, sitting down or working, whatever, in the office between 8 and 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, were these things taken into consideration whereby you're saying, all right, get up, have a break, or was it just kind of natural that they would happen? And did we have human resource making sure that these things were happening in the office, or was it kind of ignored? And is this now one of the things that you're saying, that maybe COVID has provided an opportunity even for the HR profession to understand that some of these things are absolutely necessary for workers to have? Get up, take a break, take a walk, your mental welfare and all of this. Or was it happening previously?
Spot on. In a sense, whereas there could have been programs that were deliberate before, there are things that were natural. So I get to my desk. At some point, I'll stand up, wake up, and go and have myself a cup of coffee, get some water, go to the gym, have a conversation with my colleagues on my way there and on my way back, and then continue with my work. In a sense, being social beings, sitting among people does something for you. So there could have been deliberate efforts before around team dynamics, around team building and things like that. We overlook these small nuances of what community is. And these are now coming forward. And HR are having to see, okay, before things work themselves out, but now there has to be a way of bringing people together and ensuring that it's deliberate how we approach this. And mental health is very closely tied to these nuances of community and how we operate as human beings.
Something that I'd like to ask, Emily mentioned the aspect of building capacity. Now, in an era such as the one in which we live, in this COVID era, how exactly do you who are in the HR space deal with building capacity so that people are able, not just to cope with the changes in the workplace, but changes in their own lives? Let me explain why I'm asking the question and the perspective that I am asking from. I'm asking from because if you are an employee And because of COVID, the numbers of people working in the organizations have been cut down. That restructuring means that everything that people previously knew changes. Now, how do you ensure that people are able to understand and to cope and to recover from these changes that have been brought about at a time when they weren't prepared for it? And how does the process that you take them through guarantee that they are able to adjust to these changes?
That's an excellent question, and indeed it's been a challenge for not just HR but business because nobody was prepared for a pandemic. It caught us off guard. And how do you build capacity in such environment? Number one, even before you start thinking about building capacity, you have got to think about connecting with your people. You have got to think about the channels of communication that you're going to use. You have also got to think about change management processes that you bring into the organization because this is a big change. So I think what I've also seen organizations do is to really, really work on that element of connection and making sure that the leadership is at the forefront. They are speaking to their employees often, obviously now using the virtual tools, the collaboration tools that we now have, be it Zoom and Teams, even though right now I must say there's what we call virtual fatigue. But that has been the place we have had to go to, where we have had to organize employees in groups, and even if it comes to, let's say, training, you have got to do that in a virtual environment. And I think what we've discovered is we've all had to pivot and really shift our thinking as far as technology. We were very anti-technology. Well, not everybody, but I think we were in a comfort zone, so to speak. Simple things like just setting up a call like this one, employees thinking, no, I can't touch that, I don't know how to use this. So there has to be also a capacity building in the area of how do they use these tools, how do they embrace the new technology. So that has been one of the areas where HR has had to come in before they even start bringing in the softer skills as part of continuous capacity development within the organization. And I must say it is working. We have had to adapt. In my own experience, I have seen a shift where people who preferred in-person training are now getting comfortable with online because of the flexibility that it provides.
Emily, there are some work sectors that could not afford this business that we're talking about when it came to COVID, and then work from home or, work away from the office kind of thing, because either they were heavily in things like production or heavily in things like, manufacturing. So this thing that we're talking about is a totally different universe for them, right? So when we're looking at changes that would have occurred as a result of COVID in the workspace, and when it comes to human resource, where do these job sectors fall in terms of taking care of them when the whole world is being asked to stay away from one place where they all come together? How then would employers be able to take care of their people, and what considerations would be brought in about for them?
I think you also have to consider it from the point of what business are you in. The service industry has been it's not as difficult because literally you can work from home, you can work from anywhere. But you also have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. For example, in the manufacturing, you've had to have maybe the back office staff. Those ones can easily work from home, and really having to deploy systems to check what it is that they are doing, managing the productivity while they are at home. For the other employees that really need to be on ground, it also has had to be investing more in making sure that the right spacing is there and there is safety, and really just investing more on the health and safety issues, the training, how can employees take care of themselves while they're at work, and as well as also the issue that Kanyengi talked about, taking care of their mental state. Because remember, they're also scared. They're afraid. They're like, will I contract this disease? And am I safe? And it was the same for everyone across the board. So businesses have had to also invest in that space. But one thing I must say is that I think the pandemic has also been a blessing in disguise in a way, because HR for a long time has really been, challenge in business that, we need to have flexi time. We need to have a virtual collaboration so people can work from home. There are certain policies that were more difficult to implement before because it was a mindset issue. And business thought, we have to be in the office, we have to see each other. But now we actually realize in some places, productivity is even higher now with people working away from home.
Sure. Can you get a question for you? You had mentioned mental health issues, and I think we saw a proliferation of this, especially with the onset of COVID. But then we cannot run away from the fact that it was a clear and present danger even before COVID. What are practical ways that HR practitioners around the country can deal with something that we've already been told should be declared a national emergency? What are practical ways that you can work with staff today? Because we've seen higher cases of drug and alcohol abuse among people who work in the office, people who don't know how to deal with loss of income or reduction of income and things like that. Ways in which employers can deal with this very serious danger today.
I think one of the things that comes to mind is the fact that when you speak of mental health, especially in our African context, it's something that is sort of a taboo. We don't want to talk about mental health. People equate mental health to sort of going off in the head. I think the most practical of things is, first of all, for all of us to come to the table and say, look, mental health is an issue that we need to deal with, and mental health is not, challenges with mental health is not weakness. So for HRs, creating those spaces where people can feel safe to come in and discuss what is mental health about. I must admit, for a few years, until some years back, this mental health thing was, even to me, more of a Western concept. But the more and more we've gone into the pandemic, the more and more we're seeing the stresses that are coming up. It's becoming apparent that HR and teams around people need to create spaces where people can speak about what it is that they're having to face with. Stuff to do with how to manage themselves both with the pressures of home, pressures of work, and how to open up. I speak today as a man, and I know as men we do not talk about our issues. It's joked about how we come out and talk about cars and football and these other things, but sitting down and saying, guys, I think I'm having issues, I'm burning out, or I'm having a hard time at work, is something we don't do. So let's go back to the basics. Are people being given space to speak? Is there opportunity for people to surface what it is that they're feeling? Can people be made to understand that how they feel is okay? They are not weak. It is because of the situation they're in. And as humans, we have coping mechanisms together as a community, as individuals to come through. So it's more about creating those conversations, creating the spaces for people to step up and say, I need help. Or for people to put out their hands and say, I can help you. Let me walk this journey with you.
Kanyinga, there's a symposium that we'll be hosting soon, and we'll talk about this. Let's just take a break first. It's 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. We are having a conversation with Kanyingi Kagushia. He is a Chief Operations Officer at Rise and Learn Global, and Emily Kamunde Osoro, Director at Rise and Learn. They are HR professionals. They'll be telling us about a symposium that they'll be hosting soon to bring together HR professionals to discuss how to lead people and businesses beyond the pandemic. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. (24/7) around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Do you want to study abroad in 2022? Are you confused about what path your career will take in 5 years? The world is changing and so should you. Come meet professors and representatives from universities in the UK, Canada, Australia, and many more virtually from 27th September to 1st October 2021 with Uniserve Education to get first-hand information about the careers of the future. Visit uniserveeducation.com to register. Call 0734 004 003. Uniserve. Master your own destiny.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your
Sun
life.
shining in Nairobi at 14, highs of 26 and lows of 13 today. Nakuru clear at 14, highs of 25. We'll see highs of 24 in Nyeri, where it's clear at 12. And in Eldoret this morning, clear conditions as well. 12 degrees, highs of 24, back down to lows of 12. What's happening in Mombasa? Clear conditions at some part, cloudy conditions, and also rain. 3 highs of 30 and lows of 23. Malindi, mostly clear conditions at 24, highs of 30. We'll see lows of 24. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu at 20, highs of 30, coming back down to lows of 20. In Kakamega, it's mostly cloudy at 15, highs of 28 and lows of 14. Looking out into Kampala, partly cloudy conditions at 21, highs of 27 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam continues to be clear at 22, highs of 30, back down to lows of 22. It's raining and it continues in Lagos at 25. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 31. Kinshasa, cloudy conditions at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 24. And we have clear skies in Joburg at 18, highs of 28 and lows of 16.
Spice up your life.
All right, in the city, in the middle of the city, going into the CBD, and that's all roads lead into the CBD this morning. Coming off of Jogger Road, coming off at Kamkunji there. A little bit of traffic at the roundabout, but not too crazy, at least for now. We have all this traffic on Uhuru Highway, folks. That's in and outbound from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout all the way through to Westlands and inbound as well. Gong Road, pockets of traffic all around until you get to the roundabout. It's feeding off from Bagazi Way, which is looking pretty good. It's coming off the T-Mall roundabout, and that Langata Road traffic adding to that, but not too bad on Bagathi. Other folks are going down Langata Road and connecting with Aerodrome, heading out towards Uhuru Highway, where they will meet everybody else in Nairobi who is on Uhuru Highway, getting into the city. Mombasa Road, not too bad this morning. Folks are using the ICT route. Use that as well, get you into the city quicker. The Southern Bypass also looks pretty good. Other bypasses behaving very well this morning. Use them. SpiceFM KE on Twitter is how you can get in touch. You want to text? Do it. 40127.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Situation Room this and every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. You have Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, and CT Muga. Joining us for the conversation this morning is Emily Kamunde Osoro, who's a director at Rise and Learn Global, and Kanyinge Kagushia, Chief Operations Officer at the same organization. They are HR professionals. We are talking about leading people and business beyond the COVID-19 global pandemic. We know what has happened during this time in terms of the effect on human resource and organizations. Now, Emily, you are among those who are hosting the East Africa HR Symposium that I'm assuming is bringing together HR professionals from the region to discuss things that need to be done or experiences, to share experiences on what has happened during this time. Just tell us a little bit about it, when it's taking place and how.
Yeah, so the East Africa HR Symposium has been running for the past 3 years. This will be the third edition. Like you said, it brings together professionals and also business leaders from the region. We will be discussing pertinent issues, some of the ones that we had today, and it is taking place on the 6th to the 8th October. It will be both virtual and in person at the White Sands Hotel.
So what are some of the things that you will be discussing that you hope that this symposium will bring out?
Yeah, one of the things is that our keynote speaker, Bridget Hyacinth, who's an international keynote in the matters of HR, will be talking about bringing the human to human resources. How do we bring back the empathy? How do we bring back the softer side of things to the business as well, in how we manage restructuring, in how we manage difficult conversations, performance, health issues that we've talked about today. So how does HR come to the fore? We'll also be looking at business leaders. We'll have conversations on leadership, during a time of crisis. We have all been in a crisis during this time. We'll have conversations with CEOs, business leaders, and HR in the room to see how do we need to lead differently, what is it that we need to change. And I think we'll also be very much privileged to have John C. Maxwell as one of the keynote speakers, really talking about the same thing during the conference.
When you say this, actually, I'm intrigued. We say bringing the human back to the human resource. That is sort of some admission by human resource practitioners that they left the human bit of it, and you sort of got sucked into the owners of business who are looking at the bottom line. One would assume, Kanyinge, that HR professionals are actually the advocates for the employees in the workplace, making sure that the employees are taken care of by this institution that they are working in. Are we saying that we've gotten to a point where HR has now become the opposite of the advocate for human resource in the organization? Now you have to discuss to bring back the human aspect.
I think it is not a HR conversation, it's a human conversation. Eric, in all the spheres of our lives, wherever we go, we have taken the humanness out of the human. It's fact. So what you're hearing about from the HR space is just a reflection of the bigger societal issue that we're having to deal with. So when you talk about humanness, there is this word that we use quite often in the African settings, Ubuntu, talking about essential human virtues, compassion and humanity. A closer home, Waswahili wanasema kurudisha utu kwenye watu. There is a sense in which we become so, in our society and especially in business where we operate, so business focused that the employee has moved from the center of things.
Yep.
We're talking about business and profit and top line and bottom line and impact on society. We've forgotten to talk about the employee, and that's why this is an important conversation that we're having. It's not about an admission of HR moving away. It's an admission that, hey, all of us need to come together and ask, what does it mean to be human, number one, and what does it mean to be human at the workplace as we do business and bring value.
Okay, now that we're all together on this particular matter, let me ask this question. The HR practitioners in the workplace, what real power do they have, not only to suggest change or to bring it about, but to ensure that it actually lasts? And that the end user, who is the employee or the person who works in that environment, actually receives these benefits fully. Why do I say this? Because with laying off, there's retrenchment. But before retrenchment and sackings, there is the aspect of ensuring that when someone leaves the job, there's a little cushioning that they may receive, that something like a pension. Aside from this, there's something called health. Apart from this, there's something called valuing the input of this particular personnel so that the reward is commensurate to the effort that they put in. So, does HR have the power to ensure that this balanced playing field exists and that the executive doesn't run roughshod over all these good intentions that HR is supposed to superintend?
Yeah, absolutely. HR has the power. And one of the things I say to HR professionals is they need to have that courage to take their position within the organization and also lead the business and manage their bosses, I would say. Because business doesn't know about HR. We are the experts. So what we bring to the table is that advice, is that consultation in terms of best practices. What is the best for the employees? We are kind of we play the middle ground. We manage the bottom and we manage, the top. And so yeah.
Emily, if I could just jump in there, and I hear what you're saying, but we have very many very many situations, which is why I really appreciate that you're not just having HR professionals at this symposium, but that you're bringing in CEOs as well, executive members of organizations, so that perhaps they can take on a new and different understanding of what's going on here. Because you talk about HR being the one who's bringing everybody in, but then also remembering that HR is hired by the executive, right? So it's almost as though he who pays the piper calls the tune. So what are we going to focus on? And I think for very many, it would seem as though the powers of HR has been usurped by the executive. So during this symposium now that you have that is coming up, I think again, I'm asking, can those who work in these settings, in these situations, know what then their rights and considerations should be at an HR perspective, understanding the situation where in most cases the executive, the exco, are the ones who call the shots. So we're going to focus on this right now, the bottom line. We're not really focusing on the softer side of things. How then do you ply through these situations as an employee, as an HR practitioner or professional within said organization where, you're just going to fulfill the function as opposed to the need?
I think I want to say that the executive has a big role in the success of the HR leader in the business. And CEOs who have taken it seriously to put the people agenda at the top, you will notice that they are succeeding, not just on their top line, but they are also succeeding overall, because employees, the moment that they feel included, the moment that they feel they are being rewarded for their efforts, then it's a give and take. And HR being at the center of it has got to be in a position where they know how to manage their stakeholders, they know how to manage their board, the executive, and they also need to be able to sell the HR agenda. So it calls for that mindset. It also calls for that skill set from a HR professional angle, and at the same time, the support that's coming from the business. Because HR actually happens to be the, I would say, most powerful office in the sense that you are sitting right to the decision maker. The CEO should do nothing that HR doesn't know. And that's how it should be for successful organizations to thrive, and at the same time to be able to take care of your employees in the best way possible. And those conversations we will be having during the East Africa HR Symposium on how business and HR can partner for even better collaboration and success.
Two questions. What do you do then, or what should one do when the HR is more of a hindrance than a help? That's question number one. And how then do you ensure that HR practitioners are up to speed in their game, that they understand new practices, they are updated on good governance practices, they are updated on good HR practices, and as I said, that they're up to speed in their game? How does your organization help achieve this? But answer the first one. The first question, what do you do with an HR that is more of a hindrance than a help?
You deal with the hindrance, just like the way you would deal with another employee. They are also employees, so if they are the obstacle, then they need to be dealt with in the rightful manner, in the rightful process. They should not be a blocker in the organization. And there are those ones I don't dispute. The second one is, how do you bring them up to speed? HR themselves need to be driven. They don't need to sit and wait for the organization to develop them. I think that's the one thing. They have to have the self-drive. They have to be up to speed with the current laws, and not just internally looking, but also they have to be externally focused in terms of what are the changes at the global context, what are the best practices they can bring into the organization, and also sitting with business on a day-to-day to kind of advise them on what needs to change, what needs to shift. I think that has got to be a big one from our strategic approach as far as HR is concerned. And business also has to invest. They have to have a budget for people, the same way they have a budget for every other thing within the business, looking at the top line. The people agenda has got to be within their thinking as far as budgeting is concerned.
You talked about your organization, for instance, Rise and Learn Global. You advise organizations. Some of your clients are corporate organizations themselves that outsource their HR function to you. Now, let's take any case of any of your clients. In a good case scenario, you said you help an organization in recruitment, you help an organization in growing the talent within the organization. Then there's the other softer side of things, like you've talked about. Many organizations will hire people who are taking up their job first or second job. They're still young. They are young men, young women. They're single. During the course of working for this organization, they get families. Their families start to grow. Do you help such people as they navigate through life and they're still working in this organization? For example, understanding that, well, this person's financial needs 3 years ago could have been this, but they have definitely changed because of the circumstances of their life.
That's a great question. And to answer your question, it's a yes, because HR is holistic and the service that we offer is holistic. And I think when I speak, I'm not just speaking about Rise and Learn as the organization, but largely what I've seen in organizations that are forward-looking is that they look at employees from a holistic approach. We are looking at your performance, yes, we are looking at your develop. And as you look at the employee journey, from the time they enter the organization to their growth, to they're also expanding within the family space, as you say, what resources are we providing for them? So looking at it from a benefit point of view, they may not be direct, they could be indirect, creating workplaces and workspaces that are convenient, that work for them. And also advice and kind of soft skills in terms of how do they manage their finances? How can they thrive with the same, financial budget, but now responsibilities are changing. So we provide a holistic service. And also on the other end of the spectrum, what I've seen is that we also support organizations through employee assistance programs. The employee assistance programs help you on the area of, once again, the mental health, managing when you're depressed, when you really can't put it together and you need to speak to somebody, having counselors on board, having people you can trust outside of your organization that you can reach out to, be it also for counseling, be it for financial advice. I've seen organizations invest in that. So we support organizations through those different avenues as far as a holistic support to employees that we manage.
This is also a question for you, Kanyenge, can we look at HR as a profession that is as a practice that is fluid? And I ask this because, again, with the onset of COVID, we saw that organizations started to do things a different way, whether it was work from home, whether it was come home in different shifts. And then they decided that even after COVID leaves us, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that they would continue in this manner. So is it fluid in that sense that we can take on practices which seem to previously not be welcomed, but because of a certain issue like COVID, we find that this is actually working, and then we can now adopt that as a way of doing things? Would HR then, or human resource as a practice, be able to look at it and say, actually, this is something that we can now adopt and apply across, other institutions in the future?
I think so. And to this extent, Emily opened by talking about how HR are employees in themselves. So for their own jobs, this is a new reality. It's a new way of doing things. For the organizations that they assist and support, it's the same thing. A lot of these things that we're discussing today and beyond here have been forced onto organizations. So COVID came in, people had to go remote. We had to think about technologies, about how we reach out to staff, and all things surrounding that. So to answer your question directly, yes, it is fluid to the extent that the situations we are in now are fluid. Just like the CEO's job, the financial officer's job, the radio commentator and presenter's job is fluid based on what we're having to deal with. The HR function has also become quite fluid. And mostly because they sit at the apex of seeing how they can create sort of agile spaces, both physical and virtual, that supports their employees. So as opposed to being employees themselves and thinking about themselves only, they have to think about how do they make sure the organization is agile. And that word agile has emerged as a very important word in these times. Agile meaning that organizations are able to turn and pivot and change their operations and the way of doing things to fit into the context of this thing that we are calling the new normal. The cliche one we don't all like, but that is here to stay for quite a while.
All right, so we thank you very much for sharing all those insights from an HR expert perspective. Kanyenge Kagushia, Chief Operations Officer at Rise and Learn Global, and Emily Kamunde Osoro, Director. The same organization, you'll be hosting the East Africa HR Symposium from the 6th to the 8th of August, and it'll be discussing how to lead people and businesses beyond this pandemic. Asanteni sana, and wish you all the best in the symposium.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. It's 6 minutes to 8. Keep it right here.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
What the HR professionals are saying, basically, there's a lot of agility that's needed from what Kanyinge said. Agility that's needed from various sectors in an organization, from the CEO, the business leader, to the human resource leaders. They just need to know these times are different, and how do we, that word again, pivot.
What they said, which is fundamentally true, is that HR is at the nerve center of every organization. And one can more or less figure out what sort of organization you have from its HR practitioners. Because if you're talking about, yes, there is the group policy, visions, understanding of what direction they want to take. But all these are governed by the personnel, the people, the human resource element. Now, clearly, the department that is at the center of ensuring that the personnel, the human resource that is adequate for each and every task in the organization, if it rests with them, my friend, they can either make or break an institution.
That's very true, and that's very true. They're the ones who, sort of just like what Emily was saying, HR professionals are the ones who need to sit back and look, am I getting the most out of this person?
Yes.
In the best way possible. Are they here to work to earn a living, or are they here to work enjoying what they're doing? Now, if you don't ensure that kind of environment works, that's why we end up having the situations that are being discussed around the country. People who are looking for a job, and all they want is the end of the month, how much am I getting out of this?
That's it.
So you look at, how can I optimize, just give you the bare minimum so that you pay me, because I believe what you're paying me is the bare minimum. So you're all competing from that point. I'm giving you, how much are you 2 hours?
I'm giving you for what you're giving me.
And you'll pay me for 2 hours.
Right.
And you keep insisting that, I pay you for 4 hours. Okay.
So now I will work for 4 hours.
You pay me for 4 hours.
I will work for 4 hours.
I will work for 4 hours.
A minute after 4 hours.
Done.
Yes.
Getting this organizations and the employees to get to that understanding. When you see people working longer hours, appreciate the fact that this is somebody who's committed to delivering on the job.
Sure, because if it was just about the money, they would be gone a minute after the 4 hours, right? Staying over longer hours doesn't necessarily mean that they haven't got anything to do.
Yeah. Or that they're lazy, or that they're slow.
Or they're just going to sit here because, it's nice hanging out at the office. Not really.
It's because we serve dinner at 8 p.m.
Yeah. Or there's going to be a snack finding its way through here.
Yeah.
No.
And looking at it as a cost. So getting organizations basically to work well with their employees is important. And also looking at these times. So it's COVID time, just like you said, meetings don't have to be in-person meetings anymore. They can also be virtual. How do you navigate that? How do you facilitate all your employees so that they're able to get into a virtual meeting on time? So it's all about productivity and efficiency.
And have what they need to be able to do it remotely, even,
Yeah.
But you know what I find interesting, even as I think about it? If I look at the work environment culture that we have in this country, people will pander, HR departments not excluded, will pander to what they think the wishes of the CEO, the boss, is.
Yeah.
Not to the practices that actually ought to be followed when you are complying with what is the job actually entails.
Not sticking to your profession.
No, yes. Sticking to your Kenyanness, where you are busy trying, well, one could even argue.
This is what the boss wants. Now, CT.
I know this is what the rule is.
Yeah, but
the boss has said.
Yeah. In fact, it was discussed at the board, and the board decided.
Yeah. And you want to ask, and what did you advise them as the HR?
Yeah.
Said, these things, when the bosses are deciding, you listen. You say, okay, that's new, I'm learning.
You learn every new thing of every new day. In the next hour, we commemorate what day it is today, and this is the International Safe Abortion Day. So how many abortions are taking place in Kenya annually? how many of them are actually being procured in a safe environment? How many of them are being secured in an unsafe environment? And also, how many are leading to deaths and serious harm to the people involved? And are we prepared to have this conversation about sexual and reproductive health rights for all Kenyans? Starting from what age? That's the other conversation. Do we want to have sexual and reproductive health rights for young teens and young adults? Or do we want to say, no, as long as you are above 18, now we can start that conversation. If you're below 18, forget about it. You're a child. Are we prepared to have all these conversations? Let's start that conversation in the next hour. This is the Situation Room on SpiceFM. In the next hour, we'll be live on KTN Home, in addition to live streaming the show. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The NHIF amendment bill is among the main agenda to be discussed in the National Assembly today, with lawmakers expected to pass it. Among the proposals included in the bill is to compel Kenyans over the age of 18 to take the insurance by paying 6,000 shillings a year or 500 shillings a month without considering whether they are employed or not. The bill is also expected to change the entire insurance system, which will now be called the Universal Health Coverage Scheme, which will see a number of changes in the rates paid for various services, especially for those with chronic illnesses. For instance, the amount of money for dialysis per week may be reduced from 9,500 shillings to 6,000 shillings. This, as Deputy President William Ruto now says, the NHIF amendment bill is 4 years behind schedule, delaying the rollout of the universal healthcare coverage. Ruto says today is the single most important day in the life of the 12th Parliament. 5 accused persons in the murder of lawyer Willie Kimani's client Joseph Mwenda and driver Joseph Mwiruri were put on their defense as the murder trial kicked off at the Milimani Law Court. Monday last week, Lady Justice Jessie Lesit ruled that the prosecution had established a case against the 5, among them 4 police officers and a civilian. One of the cops, while being questioned, denied accusations that were made against him that claimed that he was in charge of police station that was involved in the case of the 3.
Kati ya wale kopro walikuwa hapo, Mwita, Faith na wewe, nani alikuwa kona experience ya miaka mingi?
Wote wako na experience kwa sababu ni watu ambao wamesafa.
Faith aliandika alikuwa na 11 years, niko
sijui mali.
Mwita anasema 12.
Sina habari.
Wewe unasema 27.
Yes.
Kwa hivyo you are the most experienced co-pro in terms of years compared to the other 2.
No my lady. Kila mtu ambaye amepitia course ako na experience.
Usiepe hiyo swali. Na that's the reason why ulipewa mamlaka ya kuwa in charge of the post, because you are the most senior in experience.
Hiyo ni uongo my lady.
Willie Kimani, his client and the driver were abducted on June 2016 after leaving Mavoko Law Courts at the river, where they were pursuing a case against the police. Their bodies were later found in a thicket in Mlolongo. 9 prisoners who escaped from Nanyuki GK prison on Saturday and who have since been arrested will serve a 2-year sentence for the offense. The 9 who escaped from the highly guarded prison were all in remand awaiting the conclusion of their cases. One of the prisoners, who was among the 6 who were at large, was arrested in Kirinyaga after members of the public spotted him in the company of another inmate and alerted the police. Police are still searching for 5 more prisoners who are still at large. The prison department has also launched investigations into the incident.
Na wale wengine wamebaki sasa 5, tafadhali tuendelee kusaidiana, turudishe kwa mkono wa serikali. Officers wetu katika hii operation, kuna kikundi kimeelekea upande wa Samburu, kuna kikundi kingine kiko hapo Nanyuki, na kuna kikundi kingine kimeelekea upande wa Nairobi, kwa sababu tuna suspect hao watu wanatoroka nje, wengine watabaki na wengine wataenda nyumbani.
To politics, and Deputy President William Ruto has assured those intending to vie using the UDA ticket that they'll be subjected to a free and fair process. Speaking when he met candidates from Nakuru and Narok counties, Ruto stressed that no member has a direct ticket, appearing to respond to allegations that there are those who are being favored in the party.
The matter of free and fair nominations is not a favor from the party. It is a right to every member of this party. It is the irreducible minimum that any member can ask of this party.
Not long ago, some of Murang'a gubernatorial candidates condemned Ruto for appearing to favor Senator Irungu Kang'ata.
Tumefuguka macho na hakuna mtu atadictate to us, yule mtu tutachagua. Na kama tumesema anatuambia Uhuru hawezi sema, inakuwaje yeye anataka kusema pande nyingine? Hiyo tunataka kusema tumekataa. Na we might even reconsider our support to him. Hatujampatia, we might reconsider na hatutaki force us to reconsider our support to him. Because we have options.
Internationally, and the UK Army is ready to help ease fuel supply problems after a fourth day of long queues and pump closures. Up to 150 military tanker drivers will be trained up and deployed if required. Many people went to fill up at petrol stations amid fears a shortage of lorry drivers would hit fuel supply, which remains plentiful at refineries. The UK is estimated to be short of more than 100,000 lorry drivers, causing problems for a range of industries, including food suppliers and supermarkets in recent months. To sports, and UEFA has ended its legal fight against Barcelona, Juventus and Real Madrid over the involvement in the proposed European Super League. The clubs were among the 12 founding members of the breakaway league, which later collapsed. The trio, who have refused to renounce the project, were being investigated for a potential violation of the UEFA's legal framework. UEFA says it is now as if the proceedings had never been opened. The move comes after a court in Madrid ruled that UEFA could not punish the three remaining clubs. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, we still continue to see traffic on Mombasa Road this morning, heading out into the city. We're seeing quite a lot of it right in the middle of the CBD this morning. North Airport Road, that area going out towards Outer Ring, continues to still be a thing. Now we're looking at that whole area, North Airport Road. We're looking at going towards the Eastern Bypass, but then cutting off and going up north, then Donholm, Mayanja, that area. A lot of traffic there. Uhuru Highway then is where a lot of attention is being focused this morning. Headed out into the city, all the way from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout through to Westlands and inbound as well. Langata Road continues. Coming out of Westlands, still heavy traffic. Gong Road also still traffic getting out towards Community or then on towards Valley Road. Keep an eye on things. We're still in the middle of traffic hour. Let's keep seeing what it looks like, but nothing too crazy. Thika Superhighway still continues with what it's doing. Kiambu Road, bad, joining and then getting towards the Pangani underpass. Coming off of Limuru Road, also heading into the city, the traffic has just begun. Take a look in about half an hour and see what has changed. Let us know, just in case you run into something we should know about. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
Good morning
the
to you.
Only
Kenya's
way.
biggest conversation continues in this hour. It's the 28th day of September 2021. We appreciate everybody who's tuned in from around the world on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook or Twitter. Around the country on SpiceFM, around Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or wherever you are in Africa on KTN Home. Joining us from now until the top of the hour. C.T. Muga has today's proverb.
No one is born great. Great people become great when others are sleeping.
No one is born great. Great people become great when others are sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So you just keep sleeping when other people are becoming great.
Well, if no one is born great, then there's no expectation.
Just keep mumbling to yourself.
Dust to dust.
That is the path to greatness.
We're all gonna die.
Dust to dust. We're all gonna die. Anyway. Good proverb though. Where is it from?
See, Africa.
It's an African proverb.
Yes.
What happened to the Kisi proverb that you promised?
I'm still waiting for it.
Oh.
I will check with the source later on today, and hopefully tomorrow I will have the Kisi. But there was the other one, the Teso proverb.
The Teso proverb that you promised.
I will also look for the source again. Yes.
Okay. So today is International Safe Abortion Day. This brings to the fore that conversation again that we keep having in this country about abortion and safe or unsafe. There are people who even think that abortion should not even be a conversation at all in the first place. And then there are those that say, all right, so when abortion is a conversation, it's only a conversation with a professional, a medical professional. And this medical professional, then, it means that it's a safe abortion. If we just go strictly by the law and the Constitution, in what instances is abortion allowed in this country? Is in the event where a medical professional has determined that it's important to procure an abortion. Then that means that if it's a professional, it's going to be a safe abortion. However, the reality of our days is that we have very many unsafe abortions taking place in this country. Very many unsafe abortions being procured by medical practitioners, but not in the facility that they should be practicing. Unsafe abortions being procured by quacks who are calling themselves medical practitioners, and unsafe abortions are just being practiced by people who are at a point where they are desperate. We've heard of all this. We've seen gory images and we've seen reports of people using coat hangers and other crude things to conduct an abortion. So we have very many cases of unsafe abortions in this country. And it's not just in this country. And that's why there's an International Day for Safe Abortions. It's in recognition of the fact that there are many unsafe abortions in the world.
The discussions around abortion are emotive. I mean, the world over, even now when you think that it's something that has a consensus has been arrived at, it never really is arrived at. The goalpost keeps shifting. But then one can understand the emotions behind it. Because at the heart of an abortion, there's life. So essentially, the discussion around abortion is the discussion about life. And whether it is important to terminate life, then the discussion is, at what point is life life? At what point then can you make such a decision on behalf of a fetus? Who has the right to make the decision for the fetus? I mean, this debate is a huge debate, and it's a constantly ongoing debate. And then there's, of course, the legal side to it. Then now, the really emotive one, then there's a religious side of it, what we call the moral side of it.
So with all of these things taking place, and we're looking at a mix and mash of these different conversations happening, the nexus is that as this conversation is being had on the religious side, on the moral side, pro-life, pro-choice, that abortions are still taking place.
That is a constant.
That is it. So that's the similar area where you have these 4-5 circles meeting. That similar area is that abortions are happening. So I believe now where the conversation for this day is that now in the space where they are happening, let us do all that we can let's do all that we can to ensure that they're happening in a safe environment.
And then there's this aspect of the law. Because there are countries where abortion is outlawed, unless it is deemed that, one, by the health practitioner, the life of the mother is in danger, and so to save the life of the mother. Now, I'd like to understand how our laws cope with this. Because the discussion around abortion in this country is just as emotive as it is in other countries.
It's a tough one, it's an emotive one, and it brings in the whole issue of sexual and reproductive health rights.
Yes.
Right? So let's bring in somebody who's an expert on these matters, a human rights lawyer and a program officer on sexual and reproductive health rights at Kalin. Linda Wanjiru Kroger joins us on the line. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Today, Linda, is International Safe Abortion Day. City, you want to ask a question?
Ask Linda how she's doing. Linda, how have you been?
Hi, Dr. Muga. I'm doing well. How are
Super.
you?
Excellent. Now you can answer Eric's question.
Mumemaliza.
Tumemaliza.
Okay. Linda, International Safe
Yes.
Abortion Day being commemorated today globally. Is there a theme to this day, and what's the focus?
This year's theme has a number of aspects, but really we're focusing on making unsafe abortions history worldwide.
Okay. When you talk about making abortions history, that is unsafe abortions, I presume, history worldwide. Let's bring it to Kenya. Do we have statistics of the number of abortions, unsafe abortions that are conducted in Kenya? Of course, it's going to be very difficult because they're unsafe, they're backstreet abortions, but do you have some working figures of the numbers that we're dealing with?
Yes, we do. Actually, we do have numbers in terms of the unsafe abortions conducted within the country. As at an official report by APHRC, an NGO working on research, and the Ministry of Health, yearly or annually, we have about 500,000 unsafe abortions happening within Kenya. And this is contrasted with about 19 million unsafe abortions for sub-Saharan Africa, which is the highest in the world that we have at the moment. So in terms of working statistics, we do have an idea. However, within the last couple of years, we haven't seen an intentionality, most especially from state actors in terms of documenting these indicators, which really does put us within a precarious position and only working on practice-related data, but not really having a bigger picture.
How is this information collected?
So as we know, the custodians of data on SRHR indicators are state actors. If you want any data beyond SRHR, the people who have the most accurate data are our state actors, and that's no different when it comes to incidences of abortion, whether safe or unsafe. So if this data is not published within the larger systems that we have, either at county level and national level with MOH, then you don't necessarily have a bigger picture. And the siloed approach that I'm talking about is that if you have an NGO like Kellen that's working in a particular area, we might have maybe a 75% chance of capturing accurate data on what incidences of safe and unsafe abortion look like within that location. But really, it does speak to one of the things or one of the key aspects that we are lacking in our advocacy and being able to advance reproductive healthcare within the country, the lack of up-to-date, real-time data on incidences of safe and unsafe abortions within the country.
Linda, in this abortion conversation, and we're looking at this day to make it, to continue advocating or agitating to make it safe in this country and around the world, really. The legality of it comes into play. And we know what the law says in this country, whereby the health of the mother or that of the child or in the presence of a trained medical professional is when abortion then is considered legal, right? We have quite a number of abortions procured in this country outside of these requirements set by the law. And still then a lot of those being deemed as unsafe. So even when we are having this conversation, what is necessary to consider would be those abortions that are happening outside of what the law permits and those which are unsafe. So then how do we tie all of this together, where there are abortions happening outside the law, where there are those that are happening with the requirements set by the same law, and then now saying in all of these they should be safe? How do we do that?
That's a really great question and falls towards the cracks of not just the work that I do at Kellen and the SRHR sector in general, but also as a feminist and human rights practitioner. And really when we dissect the conflict that we have in terms of safe and unsafe abortion within the Kenyan context, we need to look at the law. The first thing is obviously, as you've highlighted, the Constitution does allow for access to safe and legal abortion within 4 instances, within the opinion of a trained health professional, in instances where the life or the health of the woman is in danger, in emergency instances, which would be post-abortal care and the like, and also if you have any other written law that does provide for certain aspects when it comes to access to abortion. However, within the legal framework in Kenya, we also have a criminal aspect within the penal code that still exists and criminalizes both this health professional and the women and the young women and persons who would like to access a safe and legal abortion. So this criminalization breeds a lot of fear, and most especially if we are looking at a demographic that consists of indigent persons, persons who are not aware of the law, persons who cannot access private medical care. This conflict of laws is not clear to them, and they definitely do not know how to navigate it. So you'll find that with the communities that we work with, when there is the fear of harassment by police or being arrested, or your neighbor walking to the police post and saying that you either plan or are accessing an abortion, then you'll find that these quacks then become opportunists and then become an option when they necessarily should not be, because the Constitution remains supreme. We have so many aspects in terms of policy documents that do provide a framework to access safe abortion. But because of these key aspects within the law, and especially criminalization, then you'll have fear, you'll have stigma, and you will have quacks thriving, as we have seen in the past time and time again. So really this dichotomy of issues and that conflict of laws does contribute significantly to us consistently talking about unsafe abortion. And if we can't deal with that, then we won't be able to make the necessary dent in reducing these unsafe incidences.
Do I hear you saying, essentially, maybe hidden, but that one of the ways to be able to get this safe abortion that is being advocated for is to open up the law and make it legal, and that way then you're able to regulate and make sure that it is safe in all circumstances? Is that what you're saying?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, and this is something that I think a lot of even medical practitioners would be able to jump in and agree with. We actually have sufficient legal structures or legal and normative frameworks to govern and regulate abortion. However, this one aspect around criminalization remains a problem. So even if we have conversations, and this is a bit technical on the legal aspect, so even if we have conversations around legality, we can't necessarily make those positive gains if we haven't dealt with the criminalization aspect. Because you have this hierarchy where the Constitution is supreme and says that abortion can be regulated in the opinion of a trained health professional, but we haven't aligned our penal code and our criminal code to be able to be anchored by this constitutional provision. So while Linda and the SRHR sector is busy advocating for 26(4) within the Constitution, we still have on the ground and in practice police officers arresting women and healthcare providers on abortion and related charges, whilst within the purview of the law, really, we should have deleted those particular sections within the penal code. So for me, when we remove the criminalization aspect and are able to implement the constitutional dispensation, the Health Act in itself, and the very robust Ministry of Health policies that we have on comprehensive abortion care, post-abortion care, we actually have a substantive foundation of law that does regulate abortion. But the criminal aspect that still continues to prevail since before independence, during colonial times, remains to be the problem that impacts largely our indigent populations, that's the ordinary Mwananchi.
You know, you venture into that and you then get into the moral side of the conversation, which is maybe where we'll be heading after we take this short break. We'll even allow some people to call in and if they have conversations around this and thoughts about this. Today is International Safe Abortion Day. We're having a conversation with Linda Wanjiru Kroger. She's a human rights lawyer. She's also a program officer with on sexual and reproductive health rights with Kalin. It's an NGO. So what is it that needs to happen to make sure that we reduce the number of unsafe abortions in the country? Is it totally discouraging against abortion, or is it opening up safe abortion so that it's more easily accessible? This is a top one. It's a really hot conversation. We'd like to hear from you, but let's take a break first. We are live on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, and online. It's 25 minutes after 8.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
No, you know, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel Nkericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Silvanus Maritim, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Silvanus Maritim, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it.
The weather with Spice FM.
Yeah, 16, highs of 26 and lows of 13. Cloudy conditions at 16 in Nakuru. We'll see lows of 14 and highs of 25. It's sunny in Nyeri at 15, highs of 24 and lows of 13. While in Eldoret, it's mostly cloudy at 15. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 12. In Mombasa this morning, sunny conditions at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 23. In Malindi, it's raining at 27, highs of 30, lows of 25. Kisumu is sunny at 21, we'll see lows of 20 and highs of 30, while in Kakamega, partly sunny at 21, highs of 28. Going to come down to a chilly low of 14 today. Out in Kampala, sunny conditions at 22, highs of 27 and lows of 19. In Joburg, it's sunny at 20, highs of 28, we'll see lows of 17, while in Dar es Salaam, it's sunny at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 23. Lagos, raining at 25, it's going to go to highs of 31 and lows of 25, while in Kinshasa, 24 and sunny, highs of 32, lows of 24.
Chilled Spice.
All right, still continues this morning. Whew, all roads are jammed. Question is, what is happening in Westland? So remember that Muthui road is an option for you to get out. The ramp at Chiroma is still closed. That removes an option for you to get out into the city. So folks are complaining about this closure coming out of Westlands. Jam, jam, jam everywhere you go. That's the situation that we're looking at until that part of the road is opened. Remember they said 10 days minus 1, 2, 3. Yes, we should be around 5 days to go. And that ramp should be opened and that traffic that we see in Westland should stop. But for today, it's jammed. Also seeing traffic still coming out of the Thika Superhighway, Kiambu Road, adding to that drama into the CBDs where all roads lead. Looking out for Uhuru Highway, we're snaking along very slowly today. The eastern part of the city not looking too bad, but that North Airport going towards Outer Ring issue still continues. Langata Road is still a mess. Parts of traffic getting better, others getting worse. We'll be out of traffic hours soon. Let's see how it all pans out. Help us out, guys. You see something we should know about that we can share? SpiceFMKE on Twitter. You can text as well on 40127.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
It's
right.
8:30 and your biggest conversation continues on Spice FM online and on KTN Home. In the Situation Room this and every weekday morning is Eric Latiff, Ndu Okoh, CT Muga. Today is International Safe Abortion Day and we're having a conversation around this and the sexual and reproductive health rights by a program officer from KLIN, Linda Wanjiro. She's also a human rights lawyer. Linda, before we took the break, we were talking about, so how do we make abortion more accessible and safe? And we said this basically takes us to the conversation that this country has been having. In 2010, around the Constitution, there are those who actually campaigned against the Constitution of Kenya 2010 on grounds that it was leaving a window open for abortion. Some of the comments that are coming in on social media today are, abortion is a sin. So why are we having a conversation whether safe or unsafe abortion day? As far as they're concerned, abortion is already a sin. Now, how do we navigate through these waters? We've had attempts in this country to have sexual and reproductive health rights bills brought before Parliament and passed, and these have faced stiff challenges.
Serious headwinds.
Serious headwinds. Linda, how do we navigate through this?
I think it's usually very interesting that when we talk about abortion, we take the conversation towards morality and immorality, while in essence, abortion cannot exist without being undertaken or without the purview of medical practice. And really these conversations that move abortion from the sphere of this trained health professional, this medical environment that makes it safe, take us within the conversations of unsafe abortion. Because, and really this becomes a philosophical conversation, what's moral and what's immoral in any society differs across the world. Even within the Kenyan context, if we expand the discussion beyond abortion and move into morality and immorality, we will never reach consensus. But an abortion does need to be undertaken within a particular environment to make it safe. And this is not less than a medical facility with certain cadres of medical professionals. The Health Act talks about 3 particular medical practitioners, an MD, a medical doctor, a clinical officer, and a registered nurse stroke midwife. These are personnel who've gone to school for 5 years and plus. But when we take the conversation to the church, to SUPKEM, and all manner of religious institutions, and then make it a conversation about morality, that we're really not being fair in looking at the lives of women, the lives of adolescents. And it takes me back to a particular case that has been within the conversations on media, social, traditional, within various practitioners in the field of JMM, that sought to highlight the plight of a very young girl, 14 years, just finished class 8, was very excited to be joining a secondary school, as we all know, and she was sexually violated. But because of the stigma that surrounds not just abortion, but issues such as sexual offenses and sexual and reproductive health rights broadly, she was afraid to report the incident. And again, when you have fear, when you have stigma, you are afraid of being discriminated upon by either society or your community. So JMM, with her peer, her fellow adolescent, accessed an unsafe abortion from a quack. And as we all know, this translated into a very hellish experience for her and her mom. This is a family that's in Kisii. They went through three medical institutions. One, a county referral hospital, the other, a faith-based mission hospital, until they ended up at Kenyatta National Hospital, all the while trying to handle this situation that had resulted from an unsafe abortion, to offer post-abortion care. And to show you the severity of what that looks like, this young adolescent at 14, 15 had to deal with kidney failure. And that's why she couldn't get treated at any of these facilities. And by the time this particular case was going to court and we were trying to look for who to hold accountable from state entities and the like, this young adolescent passed away. And that's just one story. One particular story. You can imagine of the 500,000 unsafe abortions that we're talking about, how many look like JMM's story. And within that particular case, you can hear about the health and practical nuances, because at that point, it's not about morality, it's about this is her health, this is her life, we would like to save her.
Sure.
So whenever we move abortion towards concepts around moral and immoral conversations, we're not being fair in preserving life and health.
Sure.
We're really promoting unsafe abortions in undertaking that particular discourse.
I hear what you're saying, but then I'm also thinking about what the argument or the contribution to the conversation from the other side would be. And if we look at it like this, when we talk about morality, the thinking behind a number of people is that the process that led to having this abortion had to do with sex. Whether it is abuse, whether it is consensual, whatever it is, had to do with sex, which is continually an issue that is hinged greatly on morality. And the assumption is that you engaged in sexual practice outside of an acceptable relationship, right? In most cases, marriage. People are not thinking about the circumstances that got to that point. Why it cannot be ignored or pushed to the side is that the people who have this mindset are in this set of people that we are asking to consider how to make abortion safe. See what I'm saying? They are involved in the religious sector. They're involved in the state actors where they have people with what we would call traditional thinking. They're involved in social circles. And they are the people that we're asking to be part of this conversation to make abortion safe. So it is absolutely necessary that it is not necessary to include their thinking, include them in part of the conversation. I think the question then would be how? Because that's the thinking. And they're part of this group that you're saying, let's make it safe. It involves everybody. And their thinking then also must be involved.
That's very true, Ndu. We can't achieve safe abortion without the input of everyone. But also, I think it's important to be able to understand what regulation would look like within that purview. So you're very first and foremost right in pointing out that this entrenched concepts around morality and immorality are founded on norms, normative thinking within our society, whether you're looking at it culturally, in practice, and also within a religious sphere. And whilst it would be pertinent to indulge in the morality and immorality of it, our statistics are telling us different. That even as we campaign for abstinence, whether within the family unit or broadly, if you're in a public sphere, our young persons are engaging in sex.
Sure. If
we look at current statistics, the sexual debut age has really lowered, where we are having it at 12. At the last NGEC report that I read through, So if we are having our young ones at 12, and we remember also that adolescent within the World Health Organization definition fall within 10 to 19, then it means we are not giving age-appropriate bolstering in terms of information and comprehensive sexuality education, so that our adolescents are able to understand, one, that the repercussions of sex and what they're engaging in and what that could result in. So really the gap is intersectional. Even before we get to the conversation along abortion, we do have to look at the concepts around sex within our society and the adolescents who are now forming a higher percentage. In sexual debut, I know also in incidences of new infections for HIV, adolescents again are at the top of it. And that really does tell us that we have to have a very inclusive and very intersectional approach whenever we are looking at sexual and reproductive health rights broadly and together. So the conversation does have to be joined, but also we need to be able to consider or prioritize that abortion has to remain within the purview of a medical discussion. That even when we are considering it, we are not saying that abortion should be on demand. We're saying that we have a constitution that does allow a health professional to be able to assess and provide an opinion whether the life health of the woman is in danger and give guidance to that effect. We are saying that we have policies developed by the Ministry of Health themselves. We're saying, could they be implemented? Can we demystify some of this language that's very personal to our values and beliefs, and really have a discussion along the constitutional provision and the Health Act provisions when it comes to access to safe and legal abortion? Can we prioritize the life of a woman or an adolescent like JMM, as I shared, when it comes to be able to access a safe and legal abortion, and devoid of the tensions that we have against the right to life, the right to reproductive health care, abortion is a sin, abortion is murder. Really move from that purview and try and reconcile our personal values and beliefs with the right to health and reproductive health care within the particular circumstances or instances that are highlighted in law, and also within the professional ethics and codes of conduct when it comes to medical professionals.
But Linda, let me ask the question, is it really possible to have a meaningful conversation about safe abortion if we are not having a conversation about safe sex? Remember, it's sexual and reproductive. The focus is on the reproductive when we're talking about abortions. But there is the understanding that this entire discussion of abortion would not be a discussion at all if sex was not at the heart of it. Now, in the time you've worked in sexual and reproductive health space, how easy, how difficult have you found this discussion about safe sex? And I'm not just talking about adolescents, I'm not talking about young people, I'm talking about adults. People who are of consenting age and who then can make decisions for themselves within the legal statutes we have in this country. How easy is it to have the discussion?
I think we've made strides when it comes to conversations, having conversations about safe sex. But in terms of practice, we are seeing an issue that is becoming very apparent and is very interlinked to conversations, like I said, around comprehensive sexuality education and even more so contraceptive use and uptake. And the thing is, we're on the same page in terms of the intersectionality of the approach whenever we are looking at sexual and reproductive health and rights. You can't talk about abortion if you're not talking about sex. Now, if we're interlinking it to the discussion on abortion, in instances where a person has become pregnant because they had consensual sex, that's a different situation, but it doesn't mean that that's the only instance that would lead someone to an abortion. But let me take a step back. Our approach towards advocacy, not just on safe abortion, but sexual and reproductive health care, has to involve conversations on safe sex and comprehensive sexuality education. And this boils down not just on a health kind of conversation, but also access to information and the right to education within the Kenyan context. Now, we've seen a prevailing resistance in being able to educate the masses on concepts of contraceptives. And the same resistance that we are facing in terms of abortion conversations is the same that we are seeing when it comes to the use of contraception, where misinformation and disinformation become prevailing, that even as a woman, as you're considering being able to access family planning, access contraceptives, there's still a bit of myths and misconceptions around the use of these things that we need to demystify. You'll hear someone saying that if you use, for example, an implant, you'll have cancer. Unproven, not even within the medical confines of medical knowledge. So there's still a lot of conversation in terms of demystifying some of the misinformation and disinformation that we are having in terms of contraceptive use, even as we lead up to the discussion on abortions. And that has to start if we're looking at the demographic of adolescents and young persons, school-going children. We have policies that talk about age-appropriate comprehensive sexuality education. They're not really implemented. And that's why, for example, in the case of JMM, an adolescent would feel comfortable going for advice from a fellow adolescent as opposed to actually reporting a sexual violation to their parent or to their guardian or the referral pathways that we have. So that tells us there's a bigger problem that we have to look at when it comes to sexual and reproductive health rights and care.
Exactly.
Now, linking it to the conversation on abortion, you're not only going to access an abortion in instances where you've conceived because of consensual sex. Remember, when we talk about in the opinion of a trained health professional, I might have an ectopic pregnancy, right? Where the embryo is growing outside of my womb. That calls for a conversation that's really medically tied. I might have been raped. There was no consent in that sexual encounter. And that's the intricacy, really, that I think makes abortion need to be held within a conversation of health practice as opposed towards society, but not negating the fact that we do need to have open conversations around sexuality, sexuality, reproductive health, safe sex, and the whole inclusive intersectional approach when it comes to be able to promote and advance sexual and reproductive health.
And Linda, I listen to you and I agree with many of the things that you're saying. And also the fact that I'm an adult human being who lives in this country, I understand where all these challenges are coming from. The challenges are basically cultural, religious, from cultural norms and practices, and then what we've been brought up with in terms of religion and how we deal with it. Now, this is where I want to call out the civil society organizations such as yours and others. Yes, they've been doing a lot of work and advocacy and trying to push the needle on the sexual and reproductive health rights. But at the same time, whenever the conversation comes to the bigger challenge and where the pushback is coming from, and this is a critical stakeholder in the society, these are the community thought leaders who are the custodians of our culture, and the community thought leaders who are religious leaders in our organization, in our community. Civil society organization sort of repulses the thought of engaging with them, and pushes that responsibility to the government and tells the government, you must make sure that these laws are implemented. You must make sure that this, forgetting that the government is also operating in the same environment where they know that they are dealing with these community leaders who have serious pushback. Government is led by politicians. Politicians want votes. Politicians do not want to topple this apple cart. I'm looking at today's newspapers. There's a quarter-page advert that's been placed here by some 22 civil society organizations, open letter to the Ministry of Education and Health in Kenya to recommit to the Eastern and Southern Africa commitment on provision of comprehensive sexuality education. Basically, what you're talking about And they say we, representatives of civil society organizations in Kenya, and 1,700 diverse young people drawn from the human rights sector working towards advancement and realization of sexual reproductive health and rights of adolescents and young people, are calling upon the Ministry of Education and Health to recommit to the Eastern and Southern Africa commitment on comprehensive sexuality education and sexual reproductive health that will further advance access to information on reproductive health for young people. And number two, you're calling on these two ministries to include and ensure full implementation of comprehensive sexuality education in the competency-based curriculum. And they say by 2020, Kenya was expected to develop a comprehensive sexuality education curriculum, reduce unplanned pregnancies by 75%, eliminate sexual and gender-based violence, reduce the number of new HIV infections, decrease by 50% the number of young people who don't have access to youth-friendly information and health services. Yes. Government of Kenya committed itself at an international forum and said, this is what we're going to do. Government of Kenya comes back home and finds Kenyans. And Kenyans give the pushback. Now, you said there's a lot of work and advocacy that's needed. And that's why I want to just push again the whole weight on all these 22 civil society organizations that have taken out this quarter-page advert and telling them, I think you ought not to avoid these community leaders, the religious leaders and the cultural leaders, because these are the custodians of our morality. If we say we cannot go into morality conversation, you're missing the point. We will still be here 30 years from today, Linda. You must address this.
Thanks, Eric. Very many thoughts going through as you spoke. But I really want to anchor it on the spirit of the question that you've asked in terms of morality and immorality. So we do not engage or refrain from engaging with our community leaders and our gatekeepers, as you've called them. We do have actually members of different mainstream churches and different evangelicals who are actually pro-choice, who actually campaign for access to safe and legal abortion. But because they are not, let's say, at the helm of leadership within the different institutions, you wouldn't necessarily see their, you wouldn't feel their presence or see their voices at the same level, for example, as you'll see maybe the bishop or of the Catholic Church or the cardinal himself whenever a statement is put out. So we do not refrain, we do work together, because as I highlighted earlier, an intersectional approach is necessary, because if we're talking about abortion, we're not talking about it as a separate right or a separate health choice, but it does exist within a comprehensive network of other socioeconomic aspects. And I want to tie it down to also aspects tied to indigent persons, like I talked about. The very key places where you see this intersectional approach necessary and at work is when we're at the community level. I highlighted the criminalization that we see on the ground when it comes to the penal code, and the fact that we actually have women who are in prison as we speak because of either accessing an unsafe abortion or having a spontaneous abortion, which is a miscarriage, that was then perceived as an abortion and imprisoned for that. And the reason why I say, yes, morality exists and it's a concept that we cannot live devoid of. But if we go to the nitty-gritty of these cases, at the point that this woman, for example, is undergoing a spontaneous miscarriage, a spontaneous abortion, which we call a miscarriage, and the neighbor assumes that they are having an abortion and the police are called and they are arrested, harassed, criminalized, taken to court, at no single point do we see not even morality, but even these community structures actually trying to ascertain the truth of what is happening. It's not at that point, morality does not exist. in the real life scenarios. But when we're having a conversation right now, as we will have on social media, as we will continue to engage, like last week when African Censored launched the Crooks and Wombs documentary, and we're engaging at that high-level discussion, we'll talk about all these philosophical aspects of morality. What is immoral? What's moral? But when we talk about the real-life situation on the ground, devoid of intersectional aspects such as privilege, then morality doesn't exist at that point. It's more of it's for you and your world and how you will navigate that particular aspect. And this forms the majority of the statistics that we are handling, Eric. And at that point, when a client is coming to you and you're looking at the trail of evidence and fully they had a miscarriage that is now being called an abortion, then how do you distinguish and make an argument around morality when this person is at risk of going to prison? So it's not to say that we don't work together. We do have religious leaders who are our champions. We do have conversations with our communities, but also to be able to contextualize this very broad conversation that we are having around theoretical frameworks on morality and immorality within the real-life experiences of persons on the ground. And the more we continue to talk and not act, the more our statistics continue to prevail as dismal, and these statistics are actual persons, actual human beings that we are not holding safe or protecting and advancing their human rights, because SRHR are not rights that are given. They are part of our human rights framework. But this broader conversation really is what has taken us away from the purview of that human rights framework into more of a question of these children to have an abortion. It is immoral. It is moral.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Linda. Linda Wanjiru is a human rights lawyer and a program officer for sexual and reproductive health rights at Kalin, one of the NGOs in the country that is really pushing on this particular matter. Today is International Safe Abortion Day, and that's why we're having that conversation with Linda. Time for us to say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. You've been with us since the top of the hour. The conversation continues on SpiceFM. You can switch to Spice, 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 Mombasa, Kisumu 102.5, 96.0 in Nakuru. If it's Nyeri, it's 90.9, Eldoret 96.7, and Malindi is 97.7.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in McQueen?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Maritim, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Seriousness Maritim, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's 3 minutes to 9. Nicola is asking, what's morality? Who decides what is moral and what's not? City, that is a question right down your alley.
The issue of right and wrong. Well, that very concept is something that every society evolves. When I'm using the term very explicitly, when I say the community evolves, what I mean is it is the collective lived experience that communities have that over time guides them in that direction. Now, at the heart of morality, there is the spiritual aspect of the lives of communities. And it's the understanding of not just, you see, right and wrong is now when you put it into a capsule. It is what is considered to be generally good and helpful, as
acceptable.
Yes, and acceptable as opposed to what isn't acceptable for the larger community.
So it's your community that basically decides,
more or less,
comes up with a moral
It is
code.
your community that comes up with that moral code.
You decide that, open defecation is immoral.
It will be immoral.
It becomes immoral.
Yes.
That could be for a community, it could be for an individual.
I think an individual will be influenced by the community, isn't it, right?
Or somebody in a particular circumstance at that point, weighing the entire situation that they're going through. And they will say, regardless of the noise that's coming from outside, this decision right now is best for me. I have had a conversation with the other person directly involved, and we can say, right now, this is right for me to do.
Actually, it makes sense within the Western, broadly speaking, the Western concept of morality, where the individual is at the heart of the conversation. In many communities, it is the community, that is at the heart of the conversation.
Exactly, but this whole pro-life, pro-choice conversation that's taking place, that's taking the world by storm, is just that.
It's individual discussions.
It has come from the Western world. It has.
Let's do the news.
Yes, let's.
Kenya's biggest conversation, it continues into the next hour. It's now 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta has urged the international community to develop strategies in the fight against malaria despite the current challenge of COVID-19 pandemic. The president said he is saddened by the fact that COVID-19 pandemic has undermined all efforts to help fight malaria. President Kenyatta made the remarks last night at State House Nairobi when he addressed a video conference on the Malaria Eradication Council, a group of public sectors around the world focusing on malaria eradication as a matter of health and development. The NHIF Amendment Bill is among the main agenda to be discussed in the National Assembly today, with lawmakers expected to pass it. Among the proposals included in the bill is to compel Kenyans over the age of 18 years to take the insurance by paying 6,000 shillings a year or 500 shillings a month without considering whether they are employed or not. The bill is also expected to change the entire insurance system, which will now be called the Universal Health Coverage Scheme, which will see a number of changes in the rates paid for various services, especially for those with chronic illnesses. 58% of young women in Trans Nzoia County have not sought family planning services, leading to early pregnancies and sexually transmitted diseases. During a meeting after mobilizing more than 800 girls at the Anwai National Vocational College in Kitale, County Health Minister Claire Wanyama said her ministry was working with other organizations, including Maria Stops Kenya, to address the situation.
In our county tuko 42% uptake ya family planning contraceptives. Tunaangalia mambo ya reproductive health policy ile imetengenezwa na national government. We want to cascade it down to our county government. Ili policy iende kwa assembly na tuhakikishe ya kwamba tuko na policy na legislation na institutional framework ya kutako hii maneno ya teenage pregnancies around reproductive health, all of it, including family planning.
But even as this is being addressed, what is the group's reluctance to seek such services? Maureen Bruto, office at Maria Stops Kenya, explains.
Some of the reasons why some women are hesitant to accept these modern contraceptive methods is because of the myths and misconceptions that go around within the communities. So as Maristops, we have been able to do community dialogues in the community to avoid an unwanted pregnancy, which usually results in an abortion. And most of these abortions are usually unsafe.
Basuba Ward representative in Lamu County, Dekobana, is asking the government to build schools that will enable students to take national examinations in Basuba. Basuba. Deko said since the nation gained independence, the Basuba area has never had a school where students can't take the exams. Schools located in the area are from kindergarten to standard 3, where students are forced to continue their studies in schools in Lamu and Kiunga areas. According to Bana, the situation denies the Boni community the right to education.
Hii elimu kuanzia Kenya ipate uhuru. Kila division wanakuanga na shule zaidi ya 3, 4 na secondary zaidi ya 2. Lakini la kushangaza kuwa licha ya kuwa secondary, hiyo ya elimu ya msingi pia imekuwa ni tabu kwa jamii yetu ya Boni. Sisi tungependa serikali iweze kutia maanani, kila kijiji iweke shule na iwe imeanza from class 1 mpaka darasa la 8, ili at least na sisi tuweze kufanya KCPE mahali tuko.
He said the government should also build a high school in the area.
Sahi tunashukuru hali ya usalama imeweza kurudi vizuri baada tuletewa na hawa maaskari wa Boni na KPR, kila kitu imerudi shwari kabisa. Lakini la kushangaza mpaka sahi teseka bado kutafuta elimu. Tungependa waziri aingilie kati na atembelee eneo ya Boni, aje ashuhudie ukosefu wa elimu eneo hiyo, tupate at least one secondary school, tuone hao vijana wa Boni wanaweza kujimaintain namna gani katika elimu.
On matters health and healthiest, Muthui Kagwe has warned private hospitals against detaining patients and bodies. Kagwe says that hospitals and patients need to reach an agreement on the settlement of bills rather than holding them forcefully. Kagwe, while speaking at Kisumu Sub-County Hospital in Murang'a, also asked members of the county to go get vaccinated against COVID-19. He said that only 3.2% of Kenyans had been fully vaccinated against the virus, further hoping that as we mark the 58th Mashujaa Day celebrations, 5.8 million more Kenyans would have been vaccinated. And UEFA has ended its legal fight against Barcelona, Juventus and Real Madrid over the involvement in the proposed European Super League. The clubs were among the 12 founding members of the breakaway league, which later collapsed. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Still traffic in most parts of the city today. So that area coming in from Langata Road going towards Aerodrome, absolutely packed. Uhuru Highway has been quite busy all morning and it still continues. Jogo Road also feeding off onto Landis getting into the city. Langata Road continues to be packed, jam-packed as that. Outbound on Mombasa Road today is actually looking pretty good, all the way through to the SGR. Outbound then towards the Weybridge, not too bad today. So we'll keep checking on things. We'll be out of traffic hours soon. Let's take a look in about half an hour and see what the end of the morning looks like then in terms of traffic. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, that's how you can get in touch.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
Very good.
The only one.
You happy International Abortion Day. City, today's International Safe Abortion Day. Today's proverb.
Right. No one is born great. Great people become great when others are sleeping.
Seek your greatness when others are asleep. The early bird catches the greatness.
The early bird, this story of the early bird and the worm, okay? I think it comes from communities where the worms also wake up early.
Worms are nocturnal.
Yes, it's a story
Catch
where
them before they go back in.
Where worms don't wake up early, that bird has a problem. It can wake up as early as it likes. There'll be no worm to get.
No worm.
Alingma.
Alingma.
Don't you find it interesting, or rather instructional, that whenever something, should we say, becomes a little more than just interesting, I'm trying to be as bland as possible, the knee-jerk reaction is to go native on it, meaning... Yeah, but bas. Even the woi is going native.
Shit.
There is no English explanation. Exclamation. What do I call it?
Explanation. But you meant to say exclamation. It's okay, tunakuelewa, man. No problem.
You've explained yourself.
I've explained myself. Goody.
Some comments on social media. Today being International Safe Abortion Day. Abortion is not just a legal discussion. It's also a very emotive discussion. Ken Miner says, having listened to this conversation, I'd say let the practice remain illegal until such a time as it's a health risk. The conversation on morality and sex education should be taken on top gear in schools and other religious settings. So it says, yes, let's ramp up the conversation on sex education and morality, right? Schools, religious settings and all. But for now, let abortion remain as restricted as it is. That it can only be conducted in a safe environment by a qualified medical professional, and the definition by law is a qualified medical professional is a medical doctor, a clinical officer, a registered nurse, or registered midwife. And this is only when they determine that the life of the mother is in danger. So they're basically saving the life of the mother. These are the cases, let it be on a case-by-case basis. So, for instance, when we were talking about JMM, the case that Linda was talking about, so this is a young girl who has been sexually molested, and there's a sexual offense that's taken place. Okay? The next thing that would happen, because there's a law that governs sexual offenses, is the community, and this is the caregiver, the mother or the father, the parent, the adult there would have reported this case so that it's taken up and the case goes through the legal channels. They did not. Why did the adults in that particular case not use the law that's available? It's because of the pressure from the society. You don't want to take this thing through that whole legal process. You just want to deal with it locally. Dealing with it locally means that you go and before this pregnancy becomes visible to everybody, go and procure an abortion. Now, you cannot go to a doctor to say, you know what, this has happened. The doctor will tell you, letter P3, letter this and the other. Police, we have to report it to the police. The very thing you're trying to avoid. So you don't go to any of these clinical officer, registered nurse, or medical doctor. You go to a quack. And you procure a backroom, dark alley abortion. Turns out to be unsafe. We end up with all these cases, 500,000 cases a year of unsafe abortions. So all these circumstances that lead to this, I don't really think it's because we don't have a law that allows abortion. We have a law that allows abortion. We have very many other factors that are hindering people to get the safe abortions.
And I think there are very many realities that we're running away from here when we're having this conversation. And I think it's necessary to encompass as much of them as we can. Put yourself, because the boxes that the law allows, right?
Yeah.
Those four. The mother where the mother is at risk, where there's a medical emergency, where there is a trained medical professional on ground. Those are the boxes within which the law has prescribed, right? But then I'm still on this issue that we cannot run away with the morality tag on this thing. The 500,000 cases you're talking about, bet my bottom dollar that you have quite a number of those And interestingly enough, we talk about adolescents, young girls who got pregnant and then want to go and seek an abortion. We talk about those who may have been sexually abused and because of the shame and stigma also want to go and procure an abortion. Shock on you, married women who get pregnant, either by their spouse or an extramarital affair, get pregnant and they want to go and procure abortion. Everybody in the same basket. I think back to when I was 15, 16 years old, right? Had I gotten pregnant at that time, I wouldn't lie to you. I go and sit down and tell my father and mother, you know what?
You're now pregnant.
Now
it's okay, my daughter will support
my father
you.
will look at me and tell me, I understand, my dear, no problem. Forget about it. The fear of losing your life is enough to drive you to go and procure an abortion. Back, Ali, at that point, you're not thinking. You're not thinking about your health. You're not thinking about that child. You're not thinking about that you're in some back place somewhere that's
you want to take a risk.
You're thinking about the fear of your parents. And
your peers will tell you. Your peers will actually tell you. They'll give you their own personal experiences. I swallowed this pill and it worked. This pill you can go and get over the counter, and you go over the counter and you actually get the pill and it works. And you hear very many people saying that.
In this day and age, it's even easier. It's made much easier because that information is available online.
Yes.
Exactly. CT can tell you. And look at research that we were able to go in and find last year. And we've talked about this here. Monday morning, the pharmacies in this country will tell you that the highest selling drug over the weekend for the ages between 13 and 18 is the emergency contraception, morning after pill. And they're selling it, and it's selling at record numbers.
Friday evening, Monday morning.
Monday morning. What does that tell you? People are not concerned about sexually transmitted infections. People are concerned about they don't want to get pregnant. And the reasons why they will give you is they don't want to get pregnant. Number one, who is raising a child? Number two, who are they going to face to explain this whole situation? Why are parents not having a conversation with their children? Because of this thing. It is linked to morality. It is sex, and you're talking about it in the open with the lights on. Are you crazy? Now, in that moment, can you run away from the reality that is faced to these who are procuring these? Can you run away from it? You can't.
So then, what should we do? What should we do so that, the fact of the matter is, in all those cases that we've described, if you even went to a doctor, the doctor will not perform an abortion.
No.
There's no emergency.
No, there's no emergency. You're not at risk.
Yep.
You're a perfectly healthy human being. Everything is okay. If they were to do an examination, you're fine. They won't give it to you. They won't. You're here talking about pro-life, pro-choice. That is not a conversation that's on their radar. No.
So should we open up the restriction on abortion and say the reality that we are dealing with is that there are many abortions that are procured by women of all ages in this country, and many of them end up being unsafe abortions. Even this 500,000 figure that Linda was telling us, I don't even know how we're able to get this figure, because if it's coming from government sources, it has come from people saying. How many people would actually report that they?
No.
Somebody's going to go procure abortion.
How do they get the data?
No, it isn't that somebody goes and reports. It is the cases they handle.
The cases they handle of abortions gone wrong.
Yes.
Bas. You see, there are very many unsafe abortions that don't go wrong.
Many don't go wrong.
So they're not among the 500,000?
No, they wouldn't be captured, but they don't go wrong immediately. At some point or the other, something does go wrong.
All right.
Now, you may think that a month later, 2 months later, a year later, when something goes wrong, it won't be detected. But a health professional will know exactly what is causing that problem. And if it's in a registered health facility, they will note it. They have to record it.
So it will be captured at some point.
It will be captured at some point.
500,000 cases are captured every year.
Yes. Now, what about those which are not captured?
Many more are not captured.
No.
Okay. So we are talking about close to 1 million, or maybe more than 1 million, unsafe abortion cases in Kenya every year.
Yes.
This is the reality we're dealing with.
Yes, it is.
And it's not just on issues of adolescents and young adults who have gotten pregnant. You just read for us a story here that was in court about a married couple.
Yeah.
And the man is divorcing his wife, and among the allegations that he has taken to court is that she procured an abortion. She got pregnant out of the extramarital affair that she was having, and she procured an abortion. That is the allegation that is taken to court. And he's even gone there with some medical records to show that this is what happened. Now, these are abortions that have taken place. Obviously, at that particular point, if the man did not know that the woman has fallen sick or anything, it means that it was not out of danger. The woman was not in immediate danger.
No, she was not.
You know, the discussion around safe sex is a discussion that people circumvent as much as they possibly can. Because it's at the heart of this discussion of abortions. See, safe sex is not just about sexually transmitted diseases. No, it's about pregnancies as well. Because the very processes you will use to have safe sex, this sibilant.
Right.
It is the same process that you will use or that will procure you that prevention of pregnancies. But it's a discussion people do not wish to have. Even if you talk about it, even if you try and make these preventative measures available, people still do not want to venture in that direction. So the discussion is, what do you do to ensure that people understand that safe sex is actually meant for them? It is for their benefit.
Yeah.
Because it's like when somebody practices safe sex, they're doing you a favor. You're the person who's talking to them about it.
No, it's actually for them.
Yes, but it is not understood in that way. I mean, and excuses will be found.
Let's bring in somebody who works in the medical sector. Yegon.
Yes, good morning, Eric Ndu and City.
Good morning, Yegon.
Morning, Yegon.
Yes, I think we are running away from the truth,
Okay.
By blaming the quacks, Eric. Those people who are practicing these processes of procuring an abortion are people who are registered. That is from nurses, clinical officers to the MO, sorry to say that. Now, when you say a quack, a farmer cannot wake up in the chamber and go and perform an abortion. So a quack directly translates to other cadres of an health sector.
Yeah.
Because they have a knowledge, they know how to do it, but they are not allowed to.
So people like yourself?
Yes, like me now. So when you say a quack...
It's basically people who are outside a medical doctor, a clinical officer, or registered nurse, or even those ones outside the facility.
Yes. But why is this happening? The drugs being used to procure an abortion should be under key and lock. So the people who are releasing them are the ones who are supposed to be doing it. Because normally these drugs are used maybe in deliveries or in mother in labor, you see.
Yeah.
But now we are changing it. Somebody here has come in with an unwanted pregnancy. If you see what I've wrote in Twitter is that mostly what we are having an unsafe abortion because 99% of those abortions are unwanted pregnancy.
Yeah.
1% are the one that should be done diligently. So, for the campaign to go on, the best option of getting a safe abortion is when you legalize it. Because currently, abortion is procuring an abortion is highly paying. It will determine whether you will go for a nurse, or a clinician, or an MO. So those who are going for an MO is because they have trust issues that maybe this could be more safer.
Yeah.
But it's not done even within the facility. It is outside the clinics. So the first policy which I could add to those who are from the civil rights and the human rights people is where are the drugs why are the drugs being released into the chemist? Why do we have available on the market yet it should be on under key and lock?
But Yagon, these drugs that people end up buying over the counter, are they only for abortion or are they for other things?
Okay, Eric, we have a lot of drugs that even they are being prescribed to be bought under over the counter.
Yep.
But the ones being used to procure an abortion should not be bought and should not be in the over the counter drugs.
Mm-hmm.
That is why even the KEMSA always releases these drugs to the facility as per the data of how many deliveries do you have per month. But now look at compare now how many abortions are being done monthly compared to deliveries, a lot. So who is releasing these drugs to the over the counter? High up the office.
All right. That's true. Thank you very much, Yegon. So you say let's legalize abortion anyway.
Legalize it for us to have a safe one. Okay. Because those who are practicing, to practice a safe abortion is cheap compared to an unsafe. So the practitioner will go for something which is cheap because these are paying practice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yegon, you mentioned something that I liked. You talked about the term quack, and you correctly said, yes, it's people in the medical field, the cadres of individuals in the medical field. But again, given how disciplines them in the health sector are
the professionals.
Well, yes, how all these disciplines are, should I say, segregated. There are people whom you could argue are better qualified and trained to actually procure what you may call an abortion. Their training procures them. Yes, they're all doctors, they're all nurses, they're all clinical officers, they're all medical practitioners. But there are those whose training doesn't actually give them that fine capacity to actually do
Carry this out.
Yes.
Yes.
So even if they're a medical doctor, but their training doesn't lend itself to that, then they're a quack.
Wait.
So you can't walk into an ophthalmologist's office and say, I would like to procure an abortion, and then they carry it out for you. In that process, which you're asking them to carry out,
that's not the area of expertise.
But what did they study in their basic degree? Did they study medicine and surgery?
Yes,
because I'm starting from that point.
Yes,
I mean, if you studied medicine and surgery,
yes.
then an abortion here.
No. Qualification as a doctor and the ability to do so, and Yegon can chime in here, maybe that. But speciality or specializing means
thereafter. For example, an OBGYN obviously will have.
That's the expert in that. That's the expert in that field.
Female physiology.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
But you don't have many OBGYNs, especially when you go around the country in health facilities. You'll find a doctor who's been posted here and is the head of this facility or the senior doctor in the facility, right?
Yes.
And he's the one then who's doing all these things. If there are minor surgeries to be done, he'll do. If there's things like deliveries, they're the ones who are
doing deliveries. True, but the people
with the aid of registered nurses and
actually that now, the people who actually carry out the heavy lifting, okay, that cadre of employee whom you've actually mentioned, the nurses, the clinical officers. Now, what am I saying? I am simply saying they may have the ability to do so because the general training enables them, but the specific training, and I'm using the word specific, you will find doesn't lend itself to that. And that is why there are referrals in medicine. The person you come to understands what's going on, but they say, this one, you need to go and see such and such a person. They are the ones who will understand this in greater detail.
Then there's the reality, City.
Yes.
In very many parts of this country, Yegon is called a doctor.
My friend,
as long as you find him in a health facility and he's wearing the white coat, Yegon ni daktari.
He is.
So if somebody is seeking that abortion and they want to get it outside, and that's why that's why Yegon is saying, somebody who works in the health facility, in the healthcare sector, but is not any of these three, not a clinical officer, not a medical doctor, not a registered nurse, can still do this. And these are the ones. If you ask the person who went for an abortion, they'll tell you it is Dr. So-and-so who did it.
Actually, Eric, what is also true, remember, he mentioned something, they are licensed. We license nurses in this country. We license clinical officers to open health facilities. We license them. And given the experience that they have, I am not saying they cannot carry out these services. No. I was bringing the discussion of a specialist. That is really the discussion that I'm bringing here. And the term quack, I looked it up and I looked at the history behind it. It's actually derived from a Dutch word, quack salver. Now, it's a 17th century word, and it was used to describe people who sold medicine. Now, the unfortunate thing, a very large number of the people who sold these medicines sold things which didn't work. So essentially, they are what we call in modern day terms snake oil merchants. Yes. But the point is, the medical field, from what I see, is so specialized and so specific that, as Ndu put it, if I have a problem with my nose, I am not going to go to visit a gynecologist. No. I'll go to an ENT specialist.
Right.
Yes.
Kenya says, let's talk counterfeit drugs, quack doctors. Let's talk about knitting needles, pesticides, small bottles filled with improvised explosives that are inserted into the uterus. These are just some of the things that girls and women resort to in a desperate attempt to end their pregnancy. If safe services are unavailable, that is so sad. He goes on to talk about very many other things about the same conversation. That's what we want you to hear from you this morning. We have so many unsafe abortions taking place in the country. And just like Yagon is telling us, well, why are people going for those unsafe? It's because the law has restricted the medical professionals on what abortion they can conduct. Should we just legalize abortion, make it more accessible, so that in many circumstances you can just go to a doctor and say, I want an abortion, and as long as maybe you sign some indemnity, you do a statement, or you just get an abortion, walk in, walk out. It's my choice. Should we get there? Should we legalize abortion in Kenya? That's a conversation on this International Safe Abortion Day. 0719-012-600 or SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. 9:30. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokovu is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well. Well, Jeshi la Wokovu.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the
Sunny
only way to
Nairobi
start your
through
day.
Today at 20, highs of 26 and lows of 13. Nakuru will be cloudy at 19, highs of 25, coming down to lows of 14, and 13 will be the low. In Nyeri, where it's sunny at 17, going to highs of 24. Eldoret, mostly cloudy conditions at 17, highs of 24 and lows of 14. In Mombasa, okay, the sprinkles coming back here and there, 27 degrees, highs of 30 and lows of 24. Light rain in Malindi at 28, highs of 30, lows of 25. Kisumu partly sunny through the day, going to highs of 30 and lows of 20. And we're looking at partly sunny conditions in Kakamega at 24, highs of 28 and lows of 14. Out of Kenya into Kampala, mostly sunny at 24, highs of 27 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam is mostly sunny at 28, highs of 30 and lows of 23. We're looking at sunny conditions in Johannesburg, warming up to 21, highs of 28 and lows of 17. Where in Lagos, light rain at 25, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Mostly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa at 24. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 31. Out in Beijing, it's sunny at 25. That'll be the high for the day. Looking into Paris, 9 degrees and sunny. Highs of 19, back down to lows of 9. And it's sunny in London at 12. Highs of 17 and lows of 10. New York is waking up again at 21. It's clear. Highs of 24 and lows of 13.
Spice up your life.
Okay, it's dulling down in certain parts of the city. Mombasa Road looking a lot better now. We're also seeing it having eased off in industrial areas heading to and from the city. Sheesh, Uhuru Highway, that thing is thumping with traffic this morning. All the way from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out towards Westlands. Aerodrome Road, where folks are trying to escape Langata Road, absolutely packed. The Bunyala Road roundabout, they're heading downtown. My goodness. We're not out of traffic hour there just yet. Heading into the city centre is quite a thing today. Coming off a thicker Highway as well, going towards Pangani, still packed. Kiambu Road is looking a little bit better, but it's still tight. Keep an eye on things throughout the day. We should be out of traffic hour soon, but for those parts that are sticky, it's going to be that way for some time. SpiceFM KE, you know the drill on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning.
25.
Spice up yourself.
Continues. So should we legalize abortion in this country? Should we just get to that point? Look, I want to be real, okay? The reality here is that we have very many people who are getting these unsafe abortions. There's also the other reality that CT has talked about, and this is the issue of reproductive health rights. Do people have the information that's required, especially a certain age demographic? Do they have the information that's required? Then do people have the services, reproductive health services, accessible? The whole point of Susan Kiheka and the others coming up with the reproductive and sexual health rights bills is to expand access to these rights, to expand access to these services. It's basically able to get the services as easily, as conveniently as possible. For young girls and boys to be able to walk into a health facility and be able to get condoms or be able to get contraceptives and to get the information that they require. If we address that, then we could be dealing with a lot of the things that we are dealing with today. Because like you said, it starts with sex.
Absolutely.
Unsafe sex. Well, unprotected sex. Yeah, it could be safe. It could be the same partner. But it's unprotected sex. Now, at the point where now you get into unwanted pregnancy.
And that's true. I mean, think about it now.
It's towards the tail end.
Think about it now. You previously described yourself as an adult male living in this country, adult female living in this country, and people still not comfortable with your child, 16, 17 years old, coming to tell you about their sexual experiences. It's still uncomfortable for a lot of people. So if you're not having the conversation, look, let's just be real. If you're not having the conversation when you're talking about, all right, there's a possibility that your adolescent is having sex or is considering it or will be in the near future, if you're not even going to have that conversation, and then we want to graduate to safe abortions, we want to graduate from university, we've not gone to kindergarten. It's not possible. We have to start at the beginning.
We have to start from that point.
And we've jumped very many levels whereby we can't even have the conversation in open with the lights on.
The people who are uncomfortable about imagining their children could be having sex at certain age groups. Now, you think they'll be comfortable imagining that their children could have access to safe abortion. You know, my daughter walked into a health facility and got an abortion and then just came back home, you know, chilling.
You, Dad, this is what it was. And you'll be like, oh, okay, I understand. In which alternate universe?
Let's go to the phone lines. Zachary.
Oh, good morning, everyone there.
Good morning to you.
Zachary. It's Adroki. Mwalimu Andrew there?
Yes, Mwalimu Andrew is fine. Thank you, Zachary.
I'm happy to hear. You know, we look for nicknames for any teacher. Every teacher has to have a nickname. And Mwalimu Andrew is that Andrew, Abraham, and lately Moses.
Moses.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a very good guy.
Uh-huh.
Now, let me say this, Mr. Eric, that any time of the day, whether night or during the day, dawn, I am against abortion. You know why? Abortion is not sought by a mad person, mostly or generally. If you ask those people, what are the minds or the health status of the mind of those people who seek abortion? They are normal people. That means from the word God, they knew what they were doing when they were engaging in activities that led to an unwanted pregnancy. So in the first instance, I would only suggest that the abortion be accorded to any woman who is not in his mind. That is a mad woman, let me say so, around me, please. And she should at least now have the medically attended.
How about victims of sexual violence?
Or probably a young girl, who is at 18, who was probably sexually molested,
Okay.
But any other person shouldn't be around. And let me say this, I would have wanted.
Let me ask you, Zachary. How about an adult who is raped?
Yeah.
Well, that if he goes to a judge and the doctor proves that this person was, if she is able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that she was indeed raped,
okay,
well, she could be around. Now, let me say this very quickly. I would have wanted to hear those numbers categorized in terms of religion. These are Muslims who sought. These are Muslim women who sought abortion. These were the Christian women who sought abortion. Let me tell you this, in the Standard Digital, just I think 3 days ago, there was an article that made so many people laugh and make jokes about it. As Kenyans spent 48 billion in lodgings. Can you see the kind of immorality that we are allowing in our society? This is a place whereby, especially in the Christian religion, and I'm not against anybody, but actually I'm a Christian. Our morals are questionable. Our morals are questionable. Let me say that, because in the Muslims, as far as the Muslims are concerned, no one is allowed to take money from prostitution. No one is allowed. And if I feel that I cannot be satisfied with one woman, I'm allowed to marry a maximum of even 5 or 4.
Zachary?
But,
Okay. Just because it's not allowed doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And I think that's what we're talking about here.
Okay, let me say this, In the Muslim community, and I would want a Muslim to maybe call and confirm, You know, in every market there is a mad person. It doesn't mean that Muslims do not practice prostitution, or extramarital affairs, But that is part of the odds. Those are the few odds, the mad people in the market,
By the way, Zachary, if I may just add what you're saying, the religion is not what practices ills. It's human beings who do. And it's the human beings who subscribe to these religions. So the human factor, and I'm supporting what you're saying. The human factor is what is what is central to the discussion. Is what human beings will do.
Mwalimu, let me say this. Let me finish by saying this. Yes. In the Bible, which I read, we are told that sex is blessed by God. And any person who engages in it should know that he is engaging in an activity that has been blessed from the word of God. We are also told that any person who comes into this world, has got his things arranged by God. We are told that he comes with his only plate. But some women, I saw them saying that the only plate that he comes with is the placenta. And you allow me to use those words because it's a serious discussion. Now, let me say this, we cannot be preaching water when the night comes or when we go into some areas there, that car is there, we drink wine. No, that cannot continue. Let anyone who is not ready, excuse me, let me say that anyone who is not ready to bear the consequences of sex, not even think about it.
Okay.
That would be my take.
Thank you, Zachary.
Thank you.
Let's go to county number 019. Ed.
Morning, guys. How are you doing?
Good
Very
morning,
well.
Ed.
Okay. I find it very hypocritical when something goes wrong in a certain field. People blame unlicensed people. If you see, they usually like taking the nearest scapegoat available. Why am I saying that? Because personally, I have been with friends who they'll be like, hey, Edu, drive me somewhere. There is a hospital I need to go. A hospital accredited by KMPD, ETC, Minister of Health and everything. And they go and procure an abortion. Mind you, they were not sexually assaulted. It was just an unplanned pregnancy.
Then they have a local arrangement with a health professional in this institution.
Yes, in the same institutions that, and then, funny enough, when maybe a complication arises, when you hear it is unqualified people. No. Let me tell you, that is a lie. Criminalizing abortion in itself is what makes even those illegal practices happen, because already it's a crime. But you're forgetting this. I would like to correct the previous caller and tell him this. Kutembea kwingi ni kuona mengi. If you go for example, I used to live in Coast, and when you were saying about the Muslim community, I was like wondering, hey, my brother, do you know what you're talking about? I'm going to say this. Religion doesn't play a part in unwanted pregnancy and everything. A human being, an individual, two people take part in an unwanted pregnancy.
Okay.
And there's one thing I'm going to tell you. Legalizing these things is the only way you're going to see lesser deaths. If it is still illegal, I'm going to tell you this, because even if you would, go and claim you've been sexually assaulted by a stranger.
All right, so let's legalize it. That's your argument. Thank you.
Let us legalize it.
Thank you, Ed. Zach from Moranga.
Yes, hello.
Hello, good morning.
How are you, CT?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you doing?
I'm well. I hope you remember me. No, I know you won't. Anyway, I just to continue.
Wait. Why are you determining for me that I cannot remember you?
Because the meetup was informal and it was late in the evening. Anyway.
All right.
And my colleagues are now wondering, it was late in the evening, where was this place? These colleagues of mine are very, very inquisitive.
No, it's a cultural establishment.
It was a cultural establishment. Yes.
Just listen to his laughter and you'll remember him.
You understand?
Why are you people assuming I don't remember him? Even if I
Laugh
don't?
again, Zach. There, you see? Do you remember him now?
Of course
Remember
not.
that?
Zach, please continue and ignore my colleagues.
I will ignore them. Now, I want just to contribute to this conversation. Because actually, I was listening to you as I was driving to work with a colleague, and I was just asking ourselves, actually, where is life? Because we give questions on whether it was either rape or something like that. But the question is, why would we kill an innocent child because the father is a rapist? So I find it quite a flimsy background or a flimsy foundation to argue that this kid probably is raped. I think all we need to engage in, particularly as educationists, is on robust reproductive health education, so that these kids can know the consequences of sex as early as possible. The problem is our education has made it, or the system or the culture, that discussing sex is becoming a taboo in our cultures.
It has always
Because
been.
I would
becoming.
It's actually a taboo.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at what point, like I would just even challenge the panelists. Have you ever sat down probably with your daughter or your son and tell them about the consequences of sex? do we have such kind of discussions in our family? Rarely. It's actually a taboo. So, but now it's been pushed to us teachers. Now, there's always a attempt to push it to us teachers to discuss it. But now, these kids know more. So the aspect of even that sex education, they get it over the internet and also whatsoever.
Yep.
In such scenarios, maybe there's rape. We can talk about it. But surely, why would you kill an innocent child because the father is rapist? Let's come up with legislation that are so tough. Because again, with rape, something else is that you need evidence. Surely, who rapes in public? Let's be, let's just have honest conversations on this. But let us not victimize. I like what I think the previous caller had said. The only person probably that could be allowed to procure this, which I will not advocate, is let's say in a mental case. But consensual sex, probably teenage sex, let's deal with the victims, but put the child out of order.
Okay. Thank you, Zach.
You're welcome.
Have a lovely day.
We'll connect through Ray Odondi.
Now you remember Zach.
I remember Zach very well.
Good.
Yes.
Good. So you'll reconnect. Thank you, Zach. Rufus in Nakuru. Good morning.
Hey guys. How are you doing?
Very well.
Fine. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a while now. I've not talked to you guys.
Yes, we hope you're keeping well.
I'm keeping well. How about you all?
Tuko salama kabisa.
I'm Zuri sana. Now, I want to contribute to this discussion. And my belief is the biggest problem we have is that it all boils down to parenting. I'm a proud father of 3 girls. And there are 2 are in high school and 1 is at home. She's still young. But I believe that it is the responsibility of the parent to speak to especially to the girl child about sexuality, because that is where most people avoid talking to them. It is real, but parenting has a very big role to play. About abortions, I would not want to dwell in that because of what I believe that every born baby should live, but parenting will play a very big role in guiding these kids to things about sexuality, sex, and what it entails and what to expect if you engage in it. That is the most important thing. And I'm sorry to say this, that we're in a generation where we used to listen to our parents, and now we are the parents who do what their kids tell them.
It's the other way around.
Yeah, it's the other way
around. The generation where the kids tell their parents.
Yes.
You've actually introduced a very interesting concept. How do you think this came about?
It's because, number one, we have kids, take them to boarding school when they are quite young, and then the stuff they learn there, it's very hard for us to disengage it from them. So I always tell my guys, I give you permission to have boys, friends who are boys, but you are not ready to have a boyfriend. The reason being, they learn how to, the reason being, they must learn how to associate with men, At the guidance, they have to learn how to associate with men. And they know their temperament. They know what some men can do, When they learn that, because now we take them to boarding school for girls, they only meet girls there, how will they know how to relate with men and how to take care of themselves? Because they are all in girls' school, from primary school to high school, and then when they come, and then there is a problem, we start blaming society, we start blaming government. There is no way we can legislate. We cannot legislate morality. We can't.
All right, Rufus.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for your contribution.
Yeah.
It's a good contribution. Thank you very much. Becky Kim says, it's always amazing how men are vocal against abortion, yet women are the ones that carry the burden.
Yes, it's an interesting point.
But,
you see,
Becky, what are you saying? Are you saying that men should shut up when abortion comes up as a topic of discussion?
I think she's playing that. I think that she's saying that to play a more supportive role in trying to understand what this woman goes through. the only way...
But the assumption here is that when the man is talking, they don't have that context.
No. I think maybe that might be going to the extreme. But I think, just hearing where it comes out and that, it should not be legalized. Take responsibility for your action. But, we must also understand that the only way that one can get pregnant, there's no other way you can get pregnant except by having sex, right?
Well, there's IVF.
Okay, well...
Then you stop getting technical.
I think you understand what I'm trying to say, right? So it's when you look, so it means there were two people involved in this process. So what she's trying to say is that if you play a more supportive role, and now you can imagine what happens when somebody has been raped or sexually violated and they get pregnant as a result of that. The trauma of that experience is quite a lot to deal with. And then now here you are adding to have to carry the pregnancy because society dictates just so. So I think that's where she might be coming from on that. And to say that can a more supportive role then be played when it comes to this. But there's no way...
When you're playing a supportive role, which side of the argument should you take? There are women who are pro-choice, there are women who are pro-abortion.
I don't think it's necessarily taking a side. I think it's understanding the process through which this individual who's dealing with it at that point is going through. And I think that's where...
And that is when you're talking about pro-choice.
If you are.
Because there are very many women who are strong and very vocal on pro-rights. They say abortion is not even a conversation that we should even have. Okay? There are those who are pro-choice and say, yes, let's allow abortion, but they also have different contexts that they're approaching it from.
The pro-life folks it comes from a myriad of places. So there's the religious aspect, there's the scientific aspect where they've gone to the very nitty-gritty to find out at what point can you say that life has begun, right? And they've gone to very many lengths to be able to prove this. On the other side, the pro-choice folks are saying it doesn't matter. Whether life has started, whether it has not started, you should be able to choose what to do with your body because it's yours. So you see, there are those two, different sides of the divide. Should you allow this person have that decision and make that decision? But for me, I really do feel, especially in this neck of the woods, that we are jumping the gun. Well, we can't even talk about use a condom. We can't even talk about, all right, tell me what it is that you're experiencing. Because we forget that you're getting to the age, you get into adolescence, and you're like hormones on legs. What is it that you are dealing with at that point? And then we're not having these conversations. These individuals are having to find out these things for themselves. And then sometimes they get into a situation whereby, you get pregnant. You're going to have a conversation with your parents who've never had that conversation with you. That's why we see those high numbers that we're seeing. So by the time we're talking about safe abortion, and we've not even talked about the things that are going to lead you to the place where you're pregnant in the first place. In this day and age, today, and I'm not talking about something somebody told me, conversations that I've had with people, they're young girls who do not even understand the process of getting pregnant. That this and this and this happens equals this. Today.
Of interest, this is a conversation we focus on girls instead of also understanding that as we're having this conversation,
boys are involved.
They have to be. They have to be involved in this conversation.
Yeah. When a young girl reaches puberty, aunties and mothers are telling them, no. But what about when a young boy has broken his voice? When he starts to realize these physiological changes, who's having these conversations with them?
And the outcome of this desirable activity that they focus their energies on, what it is that the outcomes can be and what it means. Many boys do not have this conversation because the conversation was had with them. So once again, they tutor themselves.
And you find out, somebody came and told you, this is my experience, and the experience of somebody else is your teacher.
And usually that experience has nothing to do with reality. When boys are talking among themselves, exaggeration is
the order.
It's at the heart of that entire conversation.
Absolutely. And I think as we're having this conversation, if we do not get real about what the issues are, if we don't deal with the fundamentals of this problem, we are jumping the gun. You cannot talk about safe abortion in its entirety without looking at the things that got people there in the first place and the education that they do or do not have. the conversations that they can or cannot have because of uncomfortability around cultural and traditional practices and morality and religion and all of this, layered conversations that need to be had.
Nicholas is saying, are adolescents old enough to consent to sex? No, then why should they have to pay for a wrong choice that they make when exploring their teenage phase of life?
It's not so much a question of paying.
That it doesn't matter whether it's it's sexual offense in that sense. If it's two adolescents,
then they shouldn't be making that decision anyway.
Who go through? Well, let's say they did it, and the girl got pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
We should allow that girl to procure an abortion
because she's not an adult.
She's not an adult. She shouldn't now bear the burden of this for the rest of her life, for the decision that she made when she was just 15 and she had sex with her 15, 16, 17-year-old boyfriend. And she got pregnant. And you can't go to the hospital and say that, the life of the mother is in danger. It's not. You cannot, you don't want to go to court and start charging the 15-year-old of sexual offense. This is where the Romeo and Juliet comes in.
It does. And you see, the problem about sex is this. Let me talk about an area that I have some knowledge in. When we're talking about HIV and somebody had already had sex, you're a mature minor. You now acquire adult status. Yes.
And you're treated as such.
Yes.
Wow. So, City, as we conclude the conversation, what is the day's proverb?
Well, the day's proverb, no one is born great. Great people become great when others are sleeping.
No one is born great. Great people become great when others are sleeping. It's an African proverb. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Happy International Safe Abortion Day. We hope to have you again tomorrow, God willing, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. CT Muga Ndu Okoh and Eric Latiff wishing you a lovely day. Sugar and Spice are coming at 11 with some good music, and this is Yolanda and DJ Absolute. Keep it right here for that and more programming from SpiceFM throughout the day. It's now 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.